All right. Happy holidays. Happy New Year to you all. The last podcast of 2021. We are here live in the Counselor's Corner with another open court discussion. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me are my co host panel members, Herb Lewis, the Big Bad Wolf.
Oh.
I'm just going to read people that they're not here in attendance yet, but Willie A. Price speaks the truth. Christine comes correct all the time, Brooks. The lovable Lakia Perry. And finally, Anetta, Life Coach Williams. This past Monday, we covered the topic, have you ever rebounded from the one you let get away? Man, that broadcast created a lot of smoke based on the big bad wolf mentioning the black woman's culture. Or maybe he said just black culture. It created a lot of
Yes, sir.
So it would not be right if we did not lead off tonight with that topic, the issue with black culture. Oh boy, here we go. So now let's look at the other three essential talking points. Number one, why chivalry is dead and what it means for romance. Yeah, people saying it ain't dead, but it's damn near dead. It's damn near dead. You might have, out of 10 guys, you might have one or two that's really going to go out and do their thing. Then you got some that's kind of like, yeah, mediocre. Then you got some guys like, the hell with that. The hell with it. So that's number one. Number two, gifts. And we're talking about holiday gifts, Christmas gifts. Is it the size or the thought that matters? And this includes any gifts. So I know people be big on their gifts and a lot of the, show and tell, posting on the book, Instagram, look what I got and all that stuff out. So, or just trying to one up people. That's what I think when you got to go around telling people what you got and all that stuff. If you're used to having something, you don't tell it. It's no big deal. But some people are like, oh, I just be so happy. I just want the world to know. So that's number two. Number three, can two people with different religious affiliations or values make a relationship work? So that's interesting because you have some people that's, into their religion. Then you have some people that, they believe, but they really don't associate themselves with anything. Then you have some people that's, maybe Muslim, Jehovah Witness, Christian. So it's all types of religions. So, and sooner or later, if you're going to be together, you're going to have to figure that out. So just adding on Willie. So what's going on, panel members? How y'all doing? What's going
on? I didn't get a chance to shave. I might have to go run a shave before the show really get going. Oh, we got a new person on the show? Oh. I thought we had Rapunzel on the show. I was like, we got Rapunzel on the show?
Why you gotta start early? Really?
What's up, Vanessa?
Leave the sister alone.
Come in, teeing off.
I thought we had Rapunzel. I thought we had Rapunzel on the show. What? We got Rapunzel up on this joint.
Newsflash, everyone knows that I will change my hair often.
That's I ain't mad at you. I like it.
That I am not my hair.
I'm gonna have to climb on over there. Look at
that. Don't listen to him. Pay him no attention. He's such an attention seeker.
Oh God.
Here comes trouble. Hi, Anita.
Hi.
Hey, Anita, how you doing?
I gotta go shave.
I want to see what y'all talking about tonight.
We got a lot going on. Anything new with anybody?
No. Well, I'm canceling my event that I shared last week because COVID is hitting this Omnicon. Am I saying that? Is this all rampant? So I'm not going to have an
Omicron,
event that's going to cause all these folks to come together and these folks getting COVID and Omnicon on me. No, that ain't going to be on my hands. So I'm canceling it and maybe change it to Sweetest Day instead, which is in October.
That's
hopefully
nice.
What is Sweetest Day? What is that?
That's something that's something Hallmark started.
Hello. He asked me. Hello.
He didn't say who. He just said what is. He didn't say who.
I'm the one that's. Why you all up in my time? Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take the spotlight. I apologize.
I thought he's a attention seeker.
Shine a light back on Lakia.
Willie about to go shave.
So I'm canceling it, but that's good. That's okay because I want everyone to be healthy and safe and just keep take ourselves.
Okay. Anything new with anybody else?
Nah.
Well, I posted it. I finally hit the milestone mark of losing 50 pounds.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. But it hasn't came without pain and all of that stuff. I went to the podiatrist today, got 2 bruised big toes, plantar fasciitis. I got to wear a boot when I sleep and all that stuff. So
that's only for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. It happens.
What'd you do?
No, it's
doing too much, probably.
Yeah, when you get out there and you haven't used your wheels like that before, and you, not before, since like the pandemic hit, then, hey, I went out there full throttle, and now
Were you running?
Deal with it, huh?
Were you running?
No, I was playing basketball.
900 kids.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Full court activity.
You're not as young as you used to be.
I understand that. But it's guys my age, so that's the beauty of it all. That it's people our age, so we are pretty much playing at the same speed. It may be a few people younger, so it's kind of hilarious to see some older guys. And like I said, there's some guys out there that's damn near. There's one guy, he's damn near 80. He's 80, and he's still out there playing.
Cool.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and shows up faithfully. So and that gives me motivation to be like, man, if I could still do this at 80, man.
Right. So true. Well, I just been going to the gym, so the gym has been good. I did take some pictures. I was going to post on that post Willie put up about what should a woman look like at certain ages, or what's the size, and along those lines. And I was going to put my size, picture of me at the gym, because I have no shame in what my size is.
I'm good.
Willie be down low. He be low key fat bashing.
That's I said the same
I came back just in time because I knew.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this, and you can say whatever you want because I'm down 119 pounds.
Okay, that's good.
Ooh,
That's
good job.
I
Congratulations.
feel fabulous and I look fabulous.
Yes, and that's why I was gonna say my weight. I'm gonna be freely transparent. I'm 5'9". I am 45 years old. I have 6 kids, and I weigh 225 pounds. But you cannot tell it. Yes, I do, and I'm all voluptuous, sexy. Okay.
And I am 5'4", 202 pounds.
You 5 what? And who?
5'4", 202. And
I
I lost
119. I was asking a question.
That changes your perspective and wanting me, right?
No. This the whole thing. It was a question because it came from a conversation about women's height and sizes. And so I said, you know what? And we've asked this before on the show.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have asked this before.
I knew the question came up some kind of way. I didn't know where it came from. I couldn't recall. But the thing was, I was just saying, I said, for each height, I said, can someone tell me what they think or what is the average height for those, average weight for those heights? And I've asked that question before because, like you said, some people say that would you say 5'9", what?
I'm
225?
5'9", and I've always had an athletic build because I ran track, I played basketball, I worked out on a regular basis. I am a lot of more muscle than fat, but even when I try to bring down, now, not that I don't have fat on me, because I do, but I still do not look like the size I just shared with you. I do not look like it, even if you see me in person. Don't. So I don't even look my age. I don't even look 45. I look like I'm 30, more like 38.
Nah, I ain't gonna push all that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You look high. You look high.
This is from other people telling me that you just hating because you old. But the thing is, that's what it is. Because you old, we ain't gonna even go there. But I do not look my age either. So it is what it is.
No, you do look good though. But I'm just saying, it was just a general question. But I knew someone, Annetta, was going to come on the show talking about I was fat bashing or talking about women's size and all that. And I wasn't. I was just asking a question.
Oh, for a man. Okay. So
yeah. So you are aware that everything they taught us about weight, body size, all that stuff in nursing school and medical school is European size.
Right. And I understand. And that's why I asked the question. Because they try to shrivel down to nothing anyways. But that, and that's why I asked the question. I understand, like a lot of black women are those heights, and their weight is normally 20 to 30 pounds more than what the charts say that they should weigh. So I was just curious as to what people, what was the thought of what those heights and weights were. That's all. I mean,
we're gonna we got a lot to cover. We're gonna shout out to BGS for joining us, the master teacher. Thanks for joining us, my man Igor. Thanks for joining us tonight. If y'all want to, we got room in here for y'all to pull up.
Link has just been dropped.
I had to go shave because I didn't want them to get me and you mixed up, Dave. So
that's all right. That's all right. So BGS said in shape, a 6 foot guy weight is 185.
Let's move on to the next topic. We're not going to keep chatting.
Well, actually, we're going to come. We are actually going to come back to that. So I mean, it's either we address it now or we can address it later, because food intake in Black America is an issue. I don't think anybody here sitting on this panel or listening can dispute that. Now, the reasons why, go ahead, Dave.
So let's dive into that. The issue with Black culture. What is Black culture and who defines it? Let's go from there. Let's start from there.
Well, I looked up a definition of culture, and I read this so we have a working definition of what we're going to use to discuss culture by. The customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. Now, we are divorced from what Africans would consider their culture. So our culture is predicated on what we have once we emerge from slavery, or once our ancestors emerged from slavery. So the foods we eat, some of them are still directly linked to what was given to our ancestors, the entrails of animals, the scraps, and we've taken that, or our culture has taken that and make that into somewhat of a delicate. So you look at chitlins, hog mugs, fried foods, whether it be pork chops, chicken, and things of that nature. So we consume that stuff in an abundance. And being that our culture is somewhat modernized and we aren't as active as we are, we see the weights of our group, particularly, and across America, start to skyrocket. Even people that come here from Asia, whose diets are generally much leaner and don't include as much carbohydrates and meats, they start to gain weight. And it's only their culture.
Because of a Western diet, particularly an American diet.
Correct. And it's only their culture that keeps them in line, because they understand that if they get to a certain weight, that they're not going to be desirable by their male counterpart. And that's the divergence that we have in Black America, is that a lot of women They use the axiom, take me as I am. Somebody's going to love me at my weight.
Okay,
So
what about men don't think the same way?
Black men,
just women,
don't, or let me.
just
in your terms.
I don't agree with that.
Native Black
Go ahead,
American men aren't overweight. Is that what you're trying to say here?
I never said that.
So
I never said that.
So men don't.
I said
as if
hold
men
on.
were also participating in this culture and the same unhealthy diets as women.
Right. This is not.
As a culture, we are all overweight.
Oh,
okay.
But the reason it affects women differently than it does men is that's not the first calling card of a man. The first calling cards of a man is, can he provide for a family? Can he protect the family? Money ranks in there, but it's never top, because if you women came across a man that was in shape, built like an Adonis, but he was homeless, the only thing you'd use him for is sex. You wouldn't marry him. That's across the board in any ethnic demographic.
I don't say
So,
I don't have sex with a homeless person. Don't.
No. I'm saying the only thing you would use him for is sex. That's what the term homo.
And don't know themselves. Everyone does.
But I'm not pointing at an individual. I want y'all to keep that in mind. So I never want to take this conversation from the general. Only are we going to work in the general, because when we start to do the specifics, it gets too nuanced. Anybody can say anything about an individual in a group, and it's applicable. We know that. That's why I very seldomly use I when I'm talking about these types of things. But that's where the term homosexual originated from, because you have a lot of women, whatever their profession is, they will find a man that satisfies them sexually, have him come over, and he's got to be gone before the sun comes up.
That's not what a homosexual is.
No. I'm saying that's why you will have a lot of women. A homosexual is completely different. You're correct. I'm just simply saying that we know that there are women who will do that.
So that terminology doesn't fit for what you're describing.
No. I'm not saying that homosexual does. Homosexual is something different. I'll freely admit that. I'm just saying that there are women that do that. Homosexual are men who are underemployed. They're moving from house to house. The women will use them for whatever, whether it's to babysit or whatever the case is, until she gets tired of him, then she'll jettison him, and he's on to the next one. Just like Davis created character Melvin.
Yeah,
but
just call them
you keep
Melvin.
referencing women. You keep referencing women. This is a man and woman thing when it comes to culture.
Black culture.
Black culture. This is not just a woman thing. So that's where, when you share these things, Herb, I really love to hear your thoughts on
what? Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on.
You always,
one moment.
Always like geared
one moment.
women.
Because she's not understanding how we got here. I only answered the question that was asked about men's weight. And the explanation, this is how we got here. I'm not saying men don't do that. But the attractive of the two genders is always supposed to have been the women, never the man. Men were very seldomly prized for their beauty. Correct me when I'm wrong.
I love to see a very handsome man. What do you mean?
Men were seldom, in the 15, 16, 1700s, name me a man that was considered to be attractive.
15, 16, 1700s. Wait a minute.
Because this is hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Because y'all not understanding how the progression works when it comes to things that were considered to be attractive. Once upon a time in the Renaissance, plus women were considered to be attractive. It's only over the years that demographic is shift.
To what?
Yeah.
To what we currently have now. This is why weight.
And which is what?
The size 2, 4, and 6 being the optimal attractor. The 2-to-1 ratio of
Now, who said that?
If you're talking about
to men.
culture, that doesn't really.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. Who remembers the song Brick House? Raise your hand.
Because I am one. Who will not?
The song Brick House by the Commodores.
I am a brick house. Yes.
Not according to the 36, 24, 36. That's a math ratio.
Still a brick house.
Okay, so I'm so confused, and
I am too.
It's very clear that.
So we can, like BGI said, if everybody stopped talking at one time, if one person can explain that point,
during the time that Brick House came out, they said 36, 24, 36, and everything you saw. Everything they was being referred to as a brick house was nowhere near those dimensions.
None of them.
That was just words, just a song.
Words of a song.
During that era,
and even then, I still
curvaceous women, the same as they are today. Curvaceous women,
always,
was the thing. That was considered a brick house. They said 36, 24, 36, but those dimensions are crazy any freaking way. It was just
not for the women. When that song was made,
for a song, when that song was made, that was not what the optimal black woman was thought to be.
Especially 24. Small 24
in the media, in black exploitation movies, whatever, was curvaceous.
Naming, okay, that's fine. I'm glad you went there because black exploitation is another part of the culture that has painted us in an unfavorable light. Name me somebody.
Is what it has.
I said has. Name me an actress that appeared in some of those movies.
Pam Grier. Nowhere near 36, 24, 36.
Pam Grier for sure.
No, wasn't. She sure wasn't.
No. I said name me an actress that appeared in some of those movies.
Pam Grier.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing distortion.
Pam.
I don't know if it's on my end or somebody else's end.
Well, you gotta stop talking so you can hear everybody else.
Nice joke.
Tell him
what size was Pam Grier?
She was curvaceous. She was nowhere near.
Angela Mayu. She was in. Who else? Who else was out there?
Angela Mayu.
Who's that?
What's Angela Mayu?
Am I saying Angelo?
Right? Thank you. I'm all messed up. Am I Angelo?
Maya Angelou was well past her prime.
She was out there. She did some video. She did some movies.
She was well past her prime.
Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Whoopi Goldberg. But she was skinnier then.
Yeah,
she was a little skinnier.
She didn't appear in any blaxploitation movies.
What about Oprah Winfrey?
We're talking specifically the blaxploitation area.
Ruby D.
I'm getting all kinds of
Angelo's name. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But let me share this. I think when I was sharing this with Willie
Kennedy,
at one point, there's some people. I don't think men, or we don't take into consideration that women bodies are different. We have a uterus. Uterus is made of muscle, so we're going to have more weight because that muscle in that of our uterus, like we still have it. That's weight that's added on to. Just the natural form. And then we also have breasts more so than men. That's muscle. That's heavy. That's weight.
Breast tissue is not muscle.
I'm just saying.
It's still weight.
I don't think all. I wanted all of that.
Our uterus weight.
It's weight. So we're always carrying more than men are because you guys do not have a uterus. And you do not have breasts for the most part. Some men don't have breasts, as we do. Most women do. So
nowadays, most men's breasts is bigger than mine.
True that.
Yeah. And it's starting at middle school. I see it. I'll be like, "Holy titty boy!" I'm down the hallway. So
I'll be a titty grown man.
Yeah.
Let me respond to the weight comment in terms of the female anatomy. My mother had 11 kids. She was 5'9". She never weighed more than 150 pounds. This is what I'm talking about. That generation of women rarely was overweight until she got to be in her grandma's years, which were like 50s, 60s. Hence the term Big Mama. We never saw Big Mama in her 20s. Not when we were kids. I defy anybody to show me a picture of the Big Mama when she was 20 something.
But you also have to think that's hormonal. That's what we're putting in the food, the difference that we're eating.
But I acknowledge that. I did acknowledge that.
Okay, I don't think any man here would look at Pam Grier back in her prime as Big Mama. She was a curvaceous woman.
Yes, she was.
I don't deny that.
But she was not. She wasn't a plus size woman. She just had curves.
No,
correct.
You have to understand.
But that's my exactly. That's my point. She was a size 2, 4, 6, whatever.
Pam Grier was a size 6.
How the hell you know that, Herb?
BGS, man, because BGS is from that era. See, this is what I keep telling people. I keep telling you guys, hold on.
Size 6 is not a normal size for African American women.
In today's culture, you're correct. It is not.
Women is a size 12. Okay, that's for African American women because you have
that's
to
not
understand,
just for African American women. That's for women.
Right, women.
Correct. Across the board, it has increased.
Okay, I'm gonna stop talking until because it's distortion when we all talking. Okay, so
the sizes back in the day were a little bit bigger than the sizes today. See, a size 6 today is smaller than the size 6
and that's facts.
Right.
That's true.
Because they weren't made for majority African American women or women that have curves. That are thicker women.
The clothing wasn't made in China.
Right, that too.
Right.
And
like I said before, everything that is based, even with this COVID, everything is based on a European studies. Okay. It's not based on African American. If you look back and you want to talk about African,
it's not even European because Europeans are curvy.
But that's what the medical basing on sizes and everything came from.
In the size chart, in the normal
that's what they taught us in medical school. So when you look back at the African American culture, you have to look at it drastically different. We as women, we have curves like this, okay? This is our hips and this is our uterus, which contains weight any between 5 to 10 pounds, okay? Now, put that on top of somebody having enlarged tumors or anything medically going on, that's some extra weight. Then you have our boobs, which are extra stored fat, okay, which is bigger as well. So it's giving us more curvage and more weight. So
and don't start breastfeeding.
And I guess I can look at that differently because when I went through breast cancer and they took my boobs off, that was like 13 pounds, okay? And I was like, whoa, I lost that much, just from them removing them. So we got to look at the whole picture when you're looking at body structure. We have a totally different body structure. I can't remember her name, but it's in the museum. There is an African American woman that is in the European museum, and she was black, and she had this big
Sarah,
big old butt.
Yeah, the one they had in the carnival. They put her in the carnival.
But to white men, she was beautiful.
They called her Venus.
Not because of her face, it's because of that big butt and those wide hips. They thought of her as good bearing. You know what I'm saying? She was good at bearing in their eyesight. She was good at sexual favors, all that stuff. So you have to look at that and look at the culture different. Now, when you talk about Black culture, when you say the food and different things like that, I agree with you 195%. We eat pork chops. We eat greens. We eat all that stuff that contains fat and it's high and it gives us high pressure. We are the highest, African American have the highest percentage for diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney failure, renal failure, dialysis. We have the highest percentage. Just in Western New York alone, we at 86% for renal failure for people on dialysis, for African American people in Buffalo, New York. So it's our food we eat. Okay, it's the food we eat. It's the Kool-Aid with all the half a pound of sugar. It's the sweet potato pie.
The sweet teas, the
macaroni and cheese, which is loaded with butter, 7 different cheeses,
cheese.
It can be as simple as the caffeine that everybody drinks in coffee. That our counterparts drink all day, every day, and it hits us differently.
I mean, think about it. In the South, they had Pepsi and nuts they had in their drinks. That alone is a high percentage of calories and everything else. So it's the food we eat, but we were taught to cook that food. When you think about slavery days, we cooked that type of stuff for our master. We cooked the homemade biscuits and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So we trained our bodies and our minds to eat that way. When you go over in England, their portions is this big.
Yeah, okay. But it wasn't always like that.
Right.
Sir Tice, how you doing?
Good evening, everyone.
And a little clarification on Pam Grier. In 1970s, body shape hourglass dress was a size 12, and she had a 40 breast, 28 waist, and 40 hips.
Come on.
What was negative being said about Pam Grier if it wasn't negative?
There was nothing negative.
It wasn't negative at all. She was just making it, correcting what was said.
No, I often use her as a.
Hold on, wait a minute. One moment, Sir Tice. But she fits within the paradigm, the 36, 24, 36.
What?
No,
she fits within the paradigm of the 36, 24, 36. In other words, the brick house dimensions that we're given aren't far off from what she is.
Okay, but let's go back to
what you said. She's talking about. 6.
But what is
okay? So
and you said she was 36, 24, 36, but she was a size 6.
Okay, that is what it is.
Yeah, let's get back to culture.
Oh yeah, what is it about that has to do with us as African Americans and the Black culture?
Yeah, how do we jump our culture?
Yeah, so we brought up the Willie the Willie post, and then it took off from there. But go back to the original thought. Where was you going to go with this? Besides that post about the size and all of that stuff.
Well, what I was going to start at, and I'd asked you this question before we started. Name a Black TV show currently that any of you would sit down and watch with your 8, 9, 10-year-old, male or female.
A show that's on right now that I watch. So. Blackish. I'll watch Blackish with my kids.
Okay.
Grownish. I like those shows.
What about it though?
Me and my children watch documentaries together, so I don't know.
It's all kind of different shows.
It's not. I can agree that there's not many sitcoms. Which Blackish, Mixedish, that whole series is very good. I don't know. I don't think that we have as much content to watch for the African American families as we used to. I can say we definitely frequent documentaries. We definitely watch documentaries. My kids can tell you about Area 51. They can tell you about America's Book of Secrets. They can tell you about Masons. They can tell you about all of that. We don't watch that.
Now, conversely, if I were to ask you about shows 30 years ago, I bet we could run up about half a dozen without thinking about it.
Well,
that's another aspect.
I like, there's a lot of shows, but there's not anymore right now. But I remember that was just on not too long ago with My Wife and Kids.
Okay.
That shows now, My Wife and Kids.
101, right? Was it that 101 Flex Washington? But see, that was when I was.
Politely, may I ask, what's the point about the lack thereof of Black television shows now versus before?
I'm just speaking
positive influence, kind of.
Okay.
Yes, just the way.
I'm still lost.
But I understand what you're saying, Herb. I didn't mean to just okay. So when the family structure was intact, before blacks were really on TV outside of performances roles like Nat King Cole, Amos and Andy, those shows. How is it the lack of those shows, we still had an intact family back then versus now? So while I agree, you guys know I'm the #1 advocate against propaganda and how we're so reliant on the media, how is it that those people then, when they didn't have these images, were able to still maintain together, be positive without there's someone with some background.
Yeah, we got some feedback. We got two things going on.
Do you guys understand what I'm saying related to that, or no?
Yes, I do.
Definitely. I think it's a mix of different things. We have social media, we have reality TV, which isn't helping. We have a lot of mixed
games,
things. So I don't
internet.
think it's only one thing.
Respectfully I wanted to speak on the food thing earlier, but respectfully, there's always been forms of negative influences. Okay, heroin is damn near from, heroin came out even before the Korean War, but after the Korean War, you had brothers who were strung out, bringing that into the 50s,
Right.
60s. I could go on into the Jezebel things or the private, what do you call it? The peep shows, where many women did that. In a nutshell, the point is that the negative influences are going to always be around, but why do we have to adhere to it so much nowadays? Whereas, it's because of the TV. It's because of food deserts why we're fat. Or it's because of this. No.
I think it travels faster now.
Huh?
It travels faster now.
But you don't have to. When I say adherent, Brother Dave, you don't have to succumb to that.
Right.
When you had a family,
especially our children are surrounded by it. So you can't say you don't have to succumb to it when everything you look at on television now, every television show has to have a gay relationship.
Okay, Willie, how about this? Turn off the TV. Willie,
listen. Okay, you're not talking realistic. You're not talking realistic.
No, you're not going to do that.
One at a time.
Okay.
One at a time.
Right. He's not going to let me talk. He's not going to let me talk. So go ahead and talk.
No, it's because you're just being contentious. We were up in the same generation, in the heart of the crack era, okay? Where it was around us, actually, not on TV, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there are people that can overcome that, where it's actually in front of them, where they're seeing it in front of family members and all this, and there's no template for it before that. All I'm saying, you and me, we both talked about Juwanza Kunjufu, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay, so we talk about, listen, I had parents around me, I had uncles. Hey, you don't need to be around this stuff. You need to keep your ass right here, right now, or it's going to be a problem. And it's like, okay, I don't want a problem with them. Okay, and you had other families that were just like that said, you know what? I don't give a damn what's all this is out here. We don't have to succumb to this. We're not forced to turn on television.
But it existed.
Huh?
I said, but it existed. So you have the same thing today. You have a lot of people that don't succumb to it, that overcome it, whatever. But you also have those that do.
People that succumb to it.
Yeah. But what are we saying about Black culture?
I think it's exposure.
I feel like we keep going into these
circles. Yeah.
No, she's right. It's a rabbit hole. Can I speak to the collard greens point that you made to the young? I'm not familiar with you. There's nothing wrong with collard greens. It's what was seasoned with collard greens. No. But in all seriousness, how is it? Shout out to my man, Nameless Protagonist, who I just saw in the chat. How is it that before 1978, I posted this there, and whether people chose to look at the graph or not, how was it before 1978, not just Black people, all people in America, the obesity rate was under 10%. Mind you, there were more poorer families prior to then with these limited diets, often eating off of government assistance. How is it suddenly? I mean, listen, we're talking about first world problems. We have more people.
We have more preservatives. We have more new technology. All of these.
Hold a second.
A more sedentary lifestyle.
Let me say this. I'm glad you said sedentary lifestyle. Sedentary lifestyle does not mean that you sign up to become lazy. What I'm simply saying is that what I'm simply saying is that how is it with people before who ate these same things that are being, seen as negative, cornbread, collard greens, nothing wrong with collard greens, by the way, but collard greens, these
I think they're very
things.
healthy, actually.
Right, exactly. No, but
they don't have the same chemicals and growth hormones back then that they have in them now.
Okay, so
when you kill the chicken now or the cow now, the hormones don't disappear. They go into the person's body, and that's why you have 12 and 11-year-old girls looking like 18 and 19-year-old women, is because those growth hormones go into their bodies, the same growth hormones that you put into the vegetables to make the vegetables grow a lot faster. They eat those vegetables, and that's why you have those things happening where people actually develop cancer and other problems that they ordinarily didn't have back in those days as well, because again, they didn't have the same chemicals and growth hormones that they put in the foods today.
Would you agree?
And you also have to keep in mind that you also have a lot of families, when you talk about the poverty level, yes, poverty still exists, but you also have a lot of families where you don't have that structure where they're sitting down eating dinner together.
Well, that's it.
They're not eating family meals. Right.
Can I finish talking?
Well, no, you just said it. I'm agreeing with you.
Everyone now is kind of like everything is fast food. I said something commending my oldest son and his wife when I was like, oh, y'all like really about this life. Like y'all sit down, y'all feed these kids vegetables, da-da-da. Kids normally pick up a pattern what they're used to.
Well,
okay. And so right now you have kids, they get picked up from school. Okay, you was good in school. Okay, I'm going to take you to McDonald's. So now you have kids that are overweight. They are more prone to sit in front of a TV and watch TV and play a game. They're not as active as we were. We were growing up. We were playing red light, green light, high, go, see, get it. We was jumping garage.
Kickball, get it.
We were more active.
But we can't. We also can't trust our kids outside the same today, because I was an outside kid. I did not let my 11-year-old go outside the same way I went outside at 11 years old.
But we have smaller families right now. But to Willie's point, I want to get to Willie's point. It's not just the GMO stuff in the food, okay? We have, let's keep this 100. We can't say we have sedentary lifestyles and we blame the food, but we're still living off the food, and there's still people who are in shape, look good for their age, respectfully, okay? So what about the lack of breastfeeding that occurs? I'm not trying to shit on women or anything like that, but there's a lack of breastfeeding. We all should know that milk is for a damn cow. It's for a calf to become 1,200 pounds. It's not for a human yet. As humans, we still consume these cows, and there's no real reason. And nowadays we have more alternatives than ever. Almond milk, soy milk, all these other milks and what have you. So I think it's a combination of convenience, which what you guys mentioned, and laziness. Now, we talk about technology. Technology didn't mean that you stayed at home and sat in your ass and did this all day. Hell, we came up with video games. Granted, it was much different, but you had to earn time for those video games. You just couldn't come home and sit all day and it's like, you're not going outside. You're not doing any chores. So some of the onus is back on us as parents, where we're like, and when you said about the safety, I'll agree that it's not the same, but I'm going to say this again, tying back to the crack era. If you grew up in the crack era, I would never want any kids to see what I unfortunately had to see during that time. And just to give context, I'm from Detroit, Michigan, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of the drug gangs, movies have been made, and I saw a good neighborhood turn bad within 3 to 4 years during my development years. I saw many of my peers who chose the drug life. So this isn't like someone from a privileged background speaking on this. I'm just saying, we have to consider it all, but I think a lot of it is the choices that we've made just for the sake of convenience.
I definitely agree with that. I grew up in Bushwick, New York, but the difference between today is, one, we've gotten so sensitive. One, we have this don't talk to my child, don't say anything to my child kind of stance, where I could go outside, and if I went around the block and I wasn't supposed to, Miss Lucy from down the block gonna tell me to carry my butt back up the street. These parents care about other kids. I have a child and I joke around with all my friends, cousins, anybody else over my house. They be like, I'd be like, I gotta stay outside, I gotta watch my son. I don't know this boy, I don't know his mother. It's just a 4-year-old boy that be out here like going crazy. Like I have to watch the cars, him going in the street, everything. Otherwise, I don't know, he'd have been hit by a car, he'd have been ran away. His mother come outside for him. I'm like, oh, he's right here. And he's at the step playing with my daughter. And she's like, oh, thank you. She's been in the house for 30 minutes. We don't have that.
Now I was just going to say, now, why does that not exist the way it did a generation ago, in your opinion?
I think it's upbringing. It's upbringing. I've watched it and I've seen it happen growing up. I've grown up with that being the norm. So everybody hasn't grown up that way. You tell certain people's kids certain things, they can't do it. I know I conduct myself in that way. I see kids miss the bus all the time. I take my kids to school. If I see my son's classmate walking back to his house because he missed the bus, come on, let's go. I'm gonna put him in my car. I'm gonna take him to school. We're going to the same school. You don't have that with all parents because there's a sensitivity. There's a don't touch my child, don't talk to my child connotation that we have today, especially with my generation.
And I think also it's a transient population. People don't stay in the same domain for years like they used to. Where we grew up, you live somewhere for 10 years, and you may have moved, but now it's like 6-9 months here, then they move. They're going to another school.
And also you have to keep in mind the social determinants now are like a spotlight. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people growing up, I mean, how many on this panel? I didn't realize I was poor until I went away. Okay, I was like, oh, you were poor? You know what I'm saying? Because we never missed a meal.
Because everybody else around you was the same way. Everybody around you were the same way. So it wasn't like you were missing anything.
Right.
But would you also agree?
Their house. My uncles that helped raise us owned their house.
So then why did you figure you're poor? You were poor. Why did you figure you were poor? What was the difference?
I realized that I wasn't like the kids that I went to school with, the white kids.
And what
they had much more, you know what I'm saying? They were driving to school, they were doing this, they had this, and they had, my lunch money was like, oh, 50 cents. You know what I'm saying? They like, oh, I could do this for lunch. I could do this. Right. So that's when I realized that we were back then considered middle class. Okay.
But you also,
right now it would be considered we were poverty level. But I didn't realize that. I was
got the free lunch and all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
But my thing, if I can enter,
because growing up, our parents didn't focus on that. They were just working, making sure we had a hot meal on the table, making sure we had clothes. Where I grew up, TV wasn't a factor. I remember many times us not having a television. My mom was like,
"We didn't watch TV." Yeah.
You need to read a book. You need to read a book.
You stayed outside until the street lights came on. When the street lights came on, you came in the house.
Right. Think about this. I say this often and people get offended by it. The thing about us is we don't want, as a culture, sometimes we don't want to read. We want the information handed to us.
Well, instant gratification.
Right. And so we always want, and we got to be honest. A lot of people is still stuck in that slave mentality. Well, you know how they did us. And I'm like, I get it. I understand it. I understand that my dad could sit here and tell you a whole story how he was kicked out of Mississippi at the age of 7 and he seen the white man do this to grandma. And at some point, I listened to the story, but I have to also remind him, Dad, at what point do you understand that, but try to get past that? And you got to live now because you're holding on to stuff. And that's why you got high blood pressure. That's why you got, epilepsy.
If I can interject. Go ahead, Lakia, make your point. Then we're going to move on to the next segment.
My thing, I just wanted to share, like, everybody's family structure is different. And everybody does things differently. I see you have one child, am I correct? And you said you have to, watch after her while she's outside playing.
I have 2.
2. Okay. I have 6 altogether, but for the most part, all my little ones were all together. So when I left them, I took them to the park because I wasn't going to drive them. They were going to drive me crazy. But as they began to get older, I didn't want to be that kind of parent that I wanted to have a leash around their neck and not allow them to have a freedom. So I let them go and play. Like, okay, where you say you're going, okay, make sure if I was to come there, you make sure you're there. And yes, come home with the street lights, come on. And I live in a community where even though I went through a divorce, I live 5 blocks from my ex-husband. So we're still within the same area. And I like it like that, because they can go to their dads, they can go, and their friends are all in this area. The schooling, everything works.
Can I add to her point real quick, Lakia's, when she's done?
Okay. So I just, everybody's structure is different. And then I have my church family. It does take a village to raise children. It does take that. And people are, and
the village does look different.
The village looks different. But then, going into yes, all of my kids are active in sports, every single one of them. So am I grabbing McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's or a chicken from Sam's Club or some fried chicken from Tops here and there? Yes, I am, to go with some sides, because all of them are in sports. Am I also using my slow cooker? Yes, I am. You have to have a balance, especially when you have every child active in something. And every home is going to have its own way of structuring, and then also you have for me, I was spoiled. I was the only child, so I was spoiled. But one thing I did notice, I did not want, because I had a big family, I didn't want my kids to experience where they didn't have, so you have that, that rolls into it. So like I said, everyone has a different way of doing things. But can my kids tend to be lazy? Yeah, sometimes, but they're kids. But one thing I can say is they're still honor students. They do their sports, they're well behaved. I appreciate that. One particularly is more of a gamer and then the others. But yes, we have a little structure. I don't have as much structure as I used to, but I have a little structure. But in that structure, one thing someone shared with me, at least you know where he is, because things have changed. I'd rather have my son home than outside running the streets with some gangs or out here if he would with the wrong crowd. So sometimes you have to pick and choose your battles. And we can always say, okay, this is the way we should do things, but everybody and every person, you have to know your child, you have to know your neighborhood, you have to know who can do what and what not to make it work. So everything is not going to always be the same for everyone, but for the most part, I believe we do want to teach our kids respect. I've had kids cuss me out, and I'm like, "Where's your parents?" I will go and knock on their parents' door.
Right, absolutely.
Like your son or your so it's different for everybody, but I have to say, but so far I can say it works for me by the grace of God, because I didn't put 3 and now in college. I mean, now I got 3 more with the mindset of college. So it's different for everybody.
I know, David, you want to go to the next topic. I got to just say this briefly. She made a great point, and I agree with that completely. The only thing is that, one, when we say the village, that gets bastardized and taken out of context. Look at some of these people who are saying, we don't care about the nuclear family. It takes a village. The difference between the old and new village is very simple. In the old family, as you described, I think you said you and your husband live 5 blocks away from each other. Usually most people bought a house down the street or 2 houses away or a block away from grandma or ma or whoever. The nucleus was somewhat still intact, and most people in that neighborhood knew each other. Whereas someone else mentioned people became more transient. Now we don't have that togetherness. So I get that, but that's what I'm saying. It wasn't like that then, so you can't necessarily compare it like for like, apples to apples in that sense. That's all I want to say.
Well, everything's going to always evolve. It's going to change.
That's right. That's what evolution is.
It's not, but there's still nothing new up under the sun. There's still nothing new up under the sun. So it may not be the exact same, yes, and it will evolve, but it still works for some people. You know what I mean?
Let me bring it. She, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Briefly on this subject, you want to add something to it? I know a lot of people.
I would like to add something too, if I can get a chance after him.
I'll wait till the next one. Y'all go ahead.
Sorry about that, brother. Willie, close it out with a Willie's moment. Then we moving on to the next subject matter.
This is gonna be short. I just got more like a statement to say than anything else on this subject. When we first started out with people saying culture, that's where we actually started. I feel that we actually started off on the wrong foot, because Black Americans don't really have a culture. We have a heritage. Everything we do is inherited from either other people's culture or from slavery or from history or something else. We don't have an actual culture. If you look at the things we do, we don't have a culture. And so that was one of the problems that they were talking about with reparations for the Black community, because we're not considered a race. We don't have a race. So when you say the Black culture, we really don't have a culture. You can't pinpoint a culture for us. We actually have a heritage, which means that everything we do is basically something we picked up or carried from somewhere else or learned from somewhere else. And so that's all I wanted to say on the subject.
But why is it that my observations that why it seems like other cultures want to be like us?
Well, it has nothing to do. They want to emulate certain things that they see in our culture. Like if you go to Japan and China, they like the way we dance and our music. So they will pick things from what we've inherited or what we represent and present in community, which is what we're known for. It's still not our culture. Those are things that we inherited. We inherited dance and entertainment because that's what we were forced to do on the plantations. So there were certain things that we did to was carried on, and we were sports, But the thing is, we inherit things. We don't actually have a culture. You can't say this is a Black culture, that's a Black culture, because we don't really have a culture. We inherit things from different races because we are mixed. We are mixed with so many different races.
I don't agree with you on that. I don't agree with you. And the reason I don't agree with you that's okay. I hear you, but I don't agree. And the reason why I don't agree, because the majority from my things that I've seen and experienced and read, a lot of the things that was created in society came from us. A lot of the different, different ideas, the different. It may not be culture, but it's from us. If it's not our culture, it's our. If you want to say it's our heritage, and then it's who we are as Black people, as African Americans.
I'm agreeing.
They get it from. We were the ones that made.
Well, let me jump in here for one moment.
That's still not that's not what a culture is.
This is why. Hold on. Let me jump in here for one moment. This is why at the top of the broadcast, I read the working definition that we were going to use for culture. And if that's going to be the case, then what I would suggest is really define culture.
Well, we could damn near have a topic on this, but
exactly.
And that's why I said I only want to make a statement. I said I want to make a statement. I'm gonna leave it at that because I know people are not going to agree with it, and then you're not. And I don't expect you to. I said, in my opinion, when we started off and we started saying culture, I already felt we were off on the wrong foot because we Black Americans, because that's why we could go from Negro, the Black American, the African American. We could change. We change our definition of who we are.
No, it's changed for us.
It's still changed. It's still changed. It doesn't matter whether we change it, but we take it. Some of us carry it on and we accept it. You can't go and do that to a Chinese person. They might say Chinese American only because they were born in America. But they still say their culture. They still say their culture is Chinese, and they do things that are inherited from their culture in China and the behavior that they learned from China.
No.
Let me say this. Let me say this right quick. And one of the things is culture could be, at multiple levels at different places. Like certain places, certain cities, certain towns, they have a different culture with them. Prime example, I belong to a hat group, and I posted a picture of me in a hat, and the guy said, kind of like, "Good job, Negro," and I'm like, "Negro? Like, sorry, sir, don't refer to me as no Negro. That's not what I go by." And then he was like, my man, that's what we say in the Big D. Talk about Detroit, Michiganers, we call people Negro. And I said, well, that's not I mean, people said nigga and all that stuff, but I never subscribed to that. So
right.
And you know, we talked about it. Then we came to terms, but I was just like Negro, like you calling me Negro?
Since I'm in the same, since I'm in the same hat group, let me just say this. Not just about the hat. I'm seeing some things in the comments, and this is exactly what I'm referring to. Case in point, we didn't have to accept those designations. Before colored, we were referred to as tawny. Okay, and when I say we, people who just had a darker hue of skin than what will be the pale skinned people, what have you. Tawny, it's a Shakespeare term, okay? And even before then, you can't take a group of people and just because they share certain same characteristics and lump them all in the culture. We recognize the difference between West Coast culture and East Coast culture. We recognize the difference between even people from our side of towns. But one thing I don't like is how, and this is no disrespect to people in the comments, but how things get reduced to entertainment nonsense. Hip hop. And I will stand by as a former hip hop B-boy and all this, that hip hop is not a culture because cultures revere their elders. And hip hop is one of the most disrespectful genres to the elders and the predecessors. But outside of that, it's more than just dance. There is a segment of Black America in the 30s that were very good at academia. I don't know what their name was called, you know, but they're a part of so-called Black culture. So, I mean, we could go on and on and on, but I just hate that when it's marginalized with us, it's our food, it's our dance, it's our entertainment. No, it's much more. And we can't agree to all of that when we're the ones that claim we invented everything. We pretty much did, you know, we had, you know, but we can't, you know, reduce it to just that. That's all I want to say.
All right, so we're moving on. I don't want to hear nothing else about
Thank you.
culture or whatever. We're moving on. Sorry for this long, but some subjects are just people get into it. You try to respect what people got to say, but we're moving on. Next segment is why chivalry is dead and what it means to romance. So do y'all think chivalry is dead? To me, I think it's pretty much dead, but
life support.
And that's all I'm gonna say. Whatever finds my
what is considered chivalry? What is considered chivalry?
Well, being romantic, flowers, opening the door,
opening doors and pulling out
gentlemen. Oh yeah.
It used to be.
You can't
talk. See, I don't know. I was curious when I saw the question. I was curious
because anybody that I've been dealing with, they open my door. I've gotten flowers. I received gifts. No, I think chivalry is not dead. It depends on.
I still open doors. I still. I mean, I just thought it was part of being polite towards a woman. I thought there were certain things you're supposed to do towards a woman, like you make sure she walks on the inside when walking down the street. Yeah. You make her feel open protected. The door for her when she gets in the car. You don't blow the horn and sit there and look at her like she's crazy. You know, right. You don't drive off as soon as she get out the car and don't wait for her to get in the house.
Make sure
you know, I just thought those are things that you do right as respect for that woman that you're with. Or that person in general, because you open the door for it could be a strange woman. You know, it doesn't have to be someone you know. I thought it was just something you did.
I know Sir Tyson Herb thinking like it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that.
Y'all can build from that. There you go.
Okay.
Like I said, that's why I asked how you describe it. Because like I said, I was curious as to how people describe it.
Okay, so I'll say this. I don't think chivalry is dead, but I will say this. Ladies, I love y'all. I believe that the women live and all this stuff and I can do the same thing a man can do. I think that stuff, okay? I love y'all to pieces. I think that stuff has minimized because in so many aspects, the culture and society have made us believe that we can do the same thing men can do as we as strong as men. Now, don't get me wrong. You got male nurses, you got female nurses, you got male doctors, you got female doctors. I get all of that. When you start talking about the roles of a man and the roles of a woman, we as women cannot do those roles. As I went back and said, a woman can't teach a boy how to be a man because we ain't never been a man. But so I do think that I don't think chivalry is dead. I think now you have a lot of men who say, well, wait a minute. If she can do what I do, you know what I'm saying? That feminist thing, it really did affect the process of how men deal with us and how they connect with us and it does. And I even have to look at myself. I'm an alpha female. I'm very vocal. I'm very aggressive. I'm very in your face, but I'm also very conscious about not trying to emasculate a man.
Okay. Now, one thing I don't think when a woman does things, and I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, because for me, even if I did something for a man, he didn't stop being, a gentleman. You should still be that, just because I'm being a woman that is also taking care and looking after my man. You know what I mean? I think I don't think
that's not it. I think right now, I'm gonna give an example. So I was at the gas station. Okay. Now I'm in a hurry. I got on high heels. I got on a white blazer jacket. I'm about to go sing at this event. Realize
where you was going like that?
So really. So I'm like at the gas station. I see like 3 guys out there pumping their gas. Willie know I'm very vocal. I looked over at 2 of the guys and was like, "Can you pump my gas for me? Because I have on heels, I'm dressed up. I don't want to accidentally spill gas on myself, and I'm going to an event." The guy immediately said to me, "Yeah, I'll pump your gas, not a problem." And then he in turn said, "You are probably the rarity. Not too many women are going to ask. I don't know if I should impose and say, yeah I'm going to pump your gas, because we live in a society now where women like, I don't know what you're trying to do to me. Are you trying to push me in the car? Are you trying to rape me? Are you trying to do this? Are you trying to do that?" And
but I think that's because of society, but not as women trying to do a man's role. But I do believe that I've had times when I've gone to a gas station as well, and I'm looking at my tire, and it looks like I need to put air in it. Men will say, "Oh, can a man will come over and say, you need help with that?" Sure, thank you. You know what I mean? And that's true.
I think we're all. Go ahead, Lakia. I was waiting for you to finish.
I'm just saying. I think that it is. Yeah, maybe on life support. I'm not gonna say all men are doing it, but for the most part, I think as women, we do have to require it. And if we don't require it, then that's where we lose it.
That's the problem.
So what you have now, if you have to look at what both of you said. One had to ask the guys to do it, and the other one, the guy did it. But if you look at the full picture, they're not being taught those things in the home, and that's where you have to look at where it starts. And most of the time, you don't have a male role model in that household raising that young man to show him to open the door to be like I said in my programs in the schools. I'm teaching boys the benefits of saying please and thank you. And
see,
a lot of them have no
right there. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this comment we seeing right now, women can do the same things men can do. Some can do it better. That's right there.
And that's the problem. But that's Vicky. That's Vicky keeping up confusion.
Hold on a second. Before we get derailed by her.
I get very passionate about this. We can't keep saying I want a good man, but in the same breath, you digging at him.
Hold on a second.
Trying to do better than him.
You can't say
try to do better than him. Try to put him down.
Oh, I want my man to do this, but in the same breath, you say I could do what you do and better. Then what the heck? You don't need him.
Can we back up for a second?
It's constant battle, constant debate.
Okay, right. Back up for a second. She trolls. Ignore that. Let's keep this.
That's what I said. Vicky keeping up confusion.
Vicky ain't causing no confusion.
We're confusing good gestures and good manners with chivalry. Okay?
Exactly.
The number one term, or the number one reason why chivalry once existed is knights who wanted to be with the king's daughters, and they did various gestures.
Loyalty and honor.
It then evolved into a man wanting to show that father that he could take care of the daughter just as well as he would for her, so that father would know, damn, this is in good hands. Damn, that's my oldest daughter, and my farm goes to the oldest kin. So, okay, I would be comfortable with that guy taking over my things. Now, those carried over. People don't realize, I said this on a topic today in the Counselor's Corner today, that dating as we recognize it is something new after the World War II. people didn't just go out
Correct.
on dates. It was usually people meeting up with family, their friends, or friends of the family within their 5-mile radius, if that. So these gestures, now these gestures that people take or accept as chivalry, now you're coming into the 60s with the women's lib movement and all this, and you get all this mixed in. Then you add into the 80s with what happened with the crack era and all this other nonsense, or I don't need no man and all this, and it's getting guys who come from traditional backgrounds. Oh, I'm confused. I've had women cuss me I shouldn't say the F word. I have had women cuss me out because I said, excuse me, ma'am. Hey, don't call me no ma'am. And I'm in my head like, what in the hell did I do wrong? And to where by the 90s, I realized, okay, they've just got bad programming, and this is what they are. But chivalry is again.
Well, people say that about sir, and I call men sir, and they're like, I'm not your dad. I'm not. So same way right, with
exactly,
sir.
Exactly. But it just tells you how bad programming has gotten to people. But now, to the young lady above me, who's told the gas station story. I'd have probably been pumping my gas until you asked myself, whatever. Okay? I've been deprogrammed up. Nope, not helping anybody. I've seen too many situations. I've been involved into too many situations. That doesn't mean that I like case in point. I went to the farmer's market. I saw a lady that was struggling. I'm like, oh, let me grab those. Don't even worry about it. But I don't want a cookie for that. It's just in my head something instinctive to do. But nowadays,
it's not taught in the home. They're not being raised with it.
Right. I'm gonna end this on the ladies. Ladies. You have a son nowadays. Would you? I'm not saying you don't train him to do that, but would you want him with how you know how many women are to be, or whatever the term is, a sucker, chump, or whatever, to everyone, or to be selective in who he does these things for? That's for the lady. Would you want that?
No, I'm going to teach my son to be respectful. Period.
To
everyone.
Yeah, that's an issue for respect.
Yeah,
for
I want him to be a gentleman. I want my son to be a gentleman.
My
So
son
any
was
and
at
everyone.
dinner the other day, and I stood at the
Too
door
many of y'all talking
to
at a time,
remind
one at a
him.
time.
I stood at the door to remind him to open the door. And when his child mom was coming to the door, I stood on the other side to maintain my position to let her know this is what he does. So if anything, out of my 4 boys, I want them to be consistent what you taught. Their dad taught them to be men. I taught them how a woman should be treated. So you need to open the door. You need to have her on the inside.
All women. All women. It doesn't matter.
I don't care if you ratchet.
Why would it be all women?
However.
Right.
I can tell you why it wouldn't be all women. Hold on, who said that? Did you say that one?
Right.
I said all women.
All women. All women don't.
Willie said, why wouldn't it be?
That they don't want that. That's
why I know it's no absolutes like that. Yeah, I know it's no absolute.
All women don't deserve it.
Exactly.
This is where it gets goofy. This is where it gets goofy. This is where it gets goofy. Now we're gonna act like we're not in this culture that we're in, where you got all this bravado. Hell, you just said you're an alpha woman when that makes absolutely positively
no understand
whatsoever. No, there's a difference between being assertive and being alpha.
This. What an alpha woman and
no.
mean is
there's
a
no
powerful,
successful
alpha woman. Often a leadership
it's
role.
All assertive.
Females are often described as intimidating.
Oh my God!
And women.
Was that in Cosmo or Vogue?
It's whatever.
No, it's
think it
okay.
is,
First of all, alphas relate.
Alpha is a label anybody.
Doesn't matter.
Pretty much, and
alphas
even for men.
To the animal kingdom. The difference between the animal kingdom and humans is that we're way too varied. Alphas, no, because of a woman calling himself, it would be no different than a man being like, I'm a feminine man
calling himself alpha.
All this. Number one,
but when I'm stating that, I'm stating that in a leadership position.
So why subscribe to titles like that?
Why not use the term assertive? Why not use what's wrong with saying assertive?
I can use assertive. I'm assertive, I'm aggressive, and I can be very intimidating because 90%.
So you're the one that has a problem with her using alpha. She just was describing something. Pretty much everybody got the impression of what she was trying to describe being succinctly.
And no matter whether she used alpha or not,
How did the man become an alpha? How did the man get the title
Very
alpha?
simple, because people have misapplied the term alpha. I said that term
Alpha is
applies to animals.
Hold on. Time out, folks.
Alpha
It
stands
applies
for
to lion
that's what
pride.
alpha means.
We're not lion
Alpha
pride.
means
We're too varied as humans. You can be the alpha at your job and be a simp in the social world. You could be an alpha in the social world and be a complete fucking
And that's
beta
when you
in
tell
the
your
business
son,
world.
your child,
You're
that
not
man to let go of that ego. As a man, you have respect for each and every woman, no matter whether she's an alpha
every
woman,
woman.
Alpha,
Exactly.
it does not matter. So if you open that door and she says she doesn't need you to open the door, that's fine. You still hold that door.
You guys,
or you bet you know.
literally.
At work,
What I'm saying is that there are some women that don't deserve nice gestures, and I'm going to stand by that.
developing the processes. I'm setting up the policies.
How
I'm the
about
boss.
this?
I'm the chick. But when I come home, I'm
Here comes that
submissive to
masculine
my
energy.
husband, who is.
Here comes that masculine energy.
That's not a masculine energy. I mean,
I'm about to have a shift. I'm about to have a totally shift because y'all can't handle the subject matter.
You got grip. And I'm not going to be one of these guys.
Let's go
I'm not
back.
going to be one of these guys who's going to sit down and be like, no. Bottom line, there are certain women who don't deserve nice gestures. Now, if I can cursing,
and there's some men don't deserve it either.
Why do you guys always have to?
But listen, okay, forget all of that. Let me see. The part is this. I think no. It's like this. I believe that this is my opinion. Is this: a man and a woman should always give respect to whomever. So if someone tries to be disrespectful, I can say people at times have tried to be disrespectful. I didn't come out my mouth and give them back disrespect. I still kept it like a lady. I still gave my response, but I kept it cool. You can be that. And I think you should. Everyone should learn how to have some type of self-control. And at the end of the day,
we treat everybody like humans.
Right. And then alpha, like I said, alpha is the beginning. That's the definition. Alpha, we created
That's what alpha stands
to
for,
mean.
Yes.
We created it to mean. Right.
Actually, no. That's incorrect. Hold on. One moment, Lakia. One moment. Alpha is actually the first letter in the Greek alphabet. Just want to clarify that.
It's the beginning. I'm looking at that first letter in the Greek alphabet in the system of Greek numerals. Yes, but also the first letter of the Greek alphabet is right here, translated as A. Yeah,
we're not lying. We're not lying.
So anyway, so as I'm saying is, if someone uses that in the urban term of alpha, that means they're a leader. Women are leaders in their homes. Women are leaders in our roles. We are. Men want to say, "Oh, what does that mean?" I am a leader in my right. I am a leader in my right.
The thing about that is,
why not just
listen. Hold on. Listen. The thing about that is, a woman and a man in a home, you both have leadership roles. You both lead in certain things, whatever. Just like I like to make parallels with sports. Like certain things, some people are when you think about basketball, football, they're leaders. Like on the defense, some people lead on the offense. So there's room for both. It's just the point of, can you coexist with your roles to determine, like, okay, I'm a leader in this, you're a leader in that, and it's called interdependence. Could you coexist together?
Exactly, because it doesn't work without one another.
Exactly. Going back and forth.
Has anybody seen the Matrix Resurrections? If you have not seen the Matrix Resurrections, I am saying it's good because the ending, it shows, and it just one can chase 1,000, two chase 10,000 of flight. Both men and female are leaders in their own right. And I believe we just need to respect each other as that, period, instead of trying to always diminish the other or try to demasculate a man. No, I don't think anybody's trying to do that. I believe for the most part, we're just trying to say, listen, just treat me as an equal. An alpha female is a leader. An alpha male is a leader. You just come together and just make things work. There's nothing wrong with a woman using that term.
Again, with these titles, whatever, stop calling each other alpha and all that shit, whatever. You're gonna be a leader, you'll be a leader. You don't need all of that stuff. You don't need all of that stuff.
As I said, humans are very complex We have different type of things that we can rule over. Case in point, the strongest guy is not going to always be the best ruler and can be usurped by the smartest guy or the most witting, most guy with most wit, and vice versa. The smartest guy may be overpowered by the strong guy. So when women tend to say alpha, you better damn well believe it's about how they can put their chests and nuts on the table.
That is not, no, that's the way you want to
put it. Your interpretation.
That is not correct. That's how you want to perceive it.
Hold on. We're going to let the Master Barber say something.
That narrative out, and that's a negative narrative. Don't be calling me from the bottom of my staircase, bro. That's how you want to
prefer your boobs on the table?
Narrative on women. That is wrong, and that you're that's incorrect on how you put that.
No. Why is a woman wanting to be? You never hear a man say, I'm in my feminine right now. I mean, it's
what
like
do you mean?
You can
not
be
masculine.
There are some men in their feminine.
What's wrong with being my household? Hey, over my son and daughter, it's got to have all this extra stank on it. Alpha, boss bitch, all this.
Who said that?
She said boss. I'm just adding bitch to that. I'm making a point.
I don't use
these terms that we use that you say we should respect each other, but guess what? Guys ain't coming in. Yeah, when I was king of the office, when I was giving that speech at the Manosphere beat up.
Yeah, there are some very egotistical men out there, sir. Yes, there are. So you misquoted.
Yes, there are what?
There are some very egotistical men out there.
I didn't say that there weren't, but that was
99%,
and they call themselves boss. Whatever they call
folks. Again,
I didn't say that there wasn't. They're not in this room. I'm making a point in that we can't even have
David, move on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start muting folks. Listen,
I want to get in there.
Go ahead, Fred. Fred has the mic now. Master Barber.
I want to know who is he referring to in the comments. Who is he referring to? Whose son can read? Because I got a son in the Air Force, college, HBCU graduate.
He didn't say Lakia.
I don't care, but I want to make sure he know. I don't know who he's talking to.
Some people I can't even comment on.
Don't even entertain.
Okay, 7 to 1 in the Air Force.
I ignored it.
We all have reading parents, so
I don't know what he's talking about.
I just ignored
As a single mother.
I don't mean to make light of the situation. Is we're in a freaking self-contained classroom. Y'all got quiet on that one. Go ahead, Fred.
Nah, man, I really don't. I don't really pay
Fred.
To, like titles, like those self-proclaimed titles, man.
Right.
If women feel like that, I mean, that's just how they feel. Just like you got women, black women like to give themselves the self-proclaimed title of strong black woman and all of that. You know what I mean? But hey, I blame Beyonce for that. I blame Beyonce for that shit.
Really?
Can I jump in on this?
You blame what?
Can I jump?
I blame Beyonce. I blame Beyonce for that shit.
That's not that.
I'm gonna jump in on this and say this.
It's all good though. Fred?
Excuse me.
I'm gonna jump in and say this.
The strong black women. I want to know what their 40 time is and their bench while I'm at.
It's not just in the muscle. I promise you, you couldn't handle a birth of a child.
We going down.
That's like one of the reasons.
I want to see how.
I have no desire to. And you
hold on. She go ahead. She go ahead.
I'm just gonna say this: if you're gonna use the alpha female, you gotta own it. Don't run away from it as it's a leadership role. You standing on it as you're dominating, because that's what alpha is mostly used for. So he is correct on that. So not saying that you're not belittling yourself as a female, that you can't lead and do things. If you're using alpha, you already know what that means. You already know what that road is going down. Most people don't want to go down this road, but you know what's going down the road when you go down there. I can't say I'm a feminine male and not go down that road and get expected anything that comes behind that, right?
Well,
alpha and masculine are not one and the same.
I'm an alpha female.
All right, I'm just gonna finish this.
Let him finish it. Let him finish it.
I'm just saying, if you're using alpha, you got to stand on it. I mean, to an extent, you're using the word alpha just to showing some type of dominance in the conversation or in the situation you're in. Females have to be dominant. I mean, I understand that. There's some females that have to be alpha and dominant because they have to do it by themselves. But you gotta own it. Don't spur away from it and say, well, it's don't use it as it's leadership. No, you have to be like that at times. There's some females that when they use that term, I'm the mama and the daddy, even if it's incorrect, you have to take on those roles to put yourself in position. So own it. But to an extent, you can't do that. To a certain degree, and most women, like in this situation that we're having, own it. Yeah, I used it. I said it this to represent this. Okay, I understand what you're saying. I'm gonna take it back. I'm using it as a leadership role. But the point of it is, reference is you're using it as a dominant role to take a position or handle things.
Or stand.
When it comes down to a lot of situations between men and women, I'm equal. I deal with the women the same. If I give the women grief, I'm gonna get the men grief. When it comes down to positions and raising your kids, and we was talking about this earlier, a lot of people we want to go with kids acting a certain way. It's all about choices. You let your kids play on this PlayStation. You let your kids stay in the house, eat McDonald's, and get fat. You have to deal with the results from this. Every parent can say. Like I knew someone that peed in the bed all the way up until probably about 20-some years old.
God damn.
That was the parents' choice to deal with that child like that. That was the parents.
That might have been a medical issue.
Personally, my child would never deal with that. But the point of it
you
is,
can't say that because you don't know what happened with that child. And what...
It could have been some trauma.
Look. Okay.
It had to be better.
Even with trauma and everything, I don't care if I got to whoop it out of them, therapy out of them. My child ain't peeing in the bed. Goddamn that long. That's too damn much.
No, I did experience.
It ain't that much trauma in the world. It ain't that much trauma.
1 second, before we get into the pee in the bed, don't alphas accept responsibility and are accountable for the good and the bad?
He just said that. He just explained that. He said, own it. He said, if you're going to be an alpha, own it, and you accept what comes with it.
What comes along with it?
He said that.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I was add an extra thing. When people tend to use it, it's usually more in a bravado type of sense. Not, you know what, I had this business and it collapsed and it was all on me. They never use it like, I was the alpha of that business. No, but when they had returns in the black, they sure do use it as that. That's what I'm saying. It's like we pick these labels when it's only good for the situation at the time.
I think, to be honest, I feel like if anybody has an issue when a black woman or black man pumps themselves up a little bit, want to pat themselves on the back, let them do that. Sometimes we need to do that to keep ourselves encouraged. There's a difference from being arrogant to being, a person that just happy, enjoying your life. And sometimes you want to Debbie down who you are because you don't want to offend anybody else. But the truth is, no, I'm not going to Debbie down who I am as an individual. I'm going to pat myself on the back sometimes. I hear there's one person I know, he has money. And a lot of times he may talk about the money he has. And people are like, he arrogant because he talk. Well, why can't he talk about his money? His money.
Right.
The thing why can't
and why does it offend you that he talks about his money? Guess what? Maybe if you had what he had, you could talk about it too. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like we should not be putting people down or judging women or men for wanting to call themselves boss bees. Sometimes women and men go through some struggles where people trying to tear them down all the time and don't have no faith in them, don't believe they can do anything. So sometimes you doing it to boost yourself up, keep yourself motivated so that you don't get.
What about the mirror? Why do you need to say that in
I
front
can
of
say you. That's the thing. I don't need to go off your stipulation of how I boost myself up.
Okay. So you care more about what people think than what the person looking back at the mirror is.
No, it's not about that. You think somebody should do it in the content by themselves. No, but the thing what you should do What you should do is when you find somebody, let me give you a suggestion.
What I should do? Okay.
Well, I'm gonna give you a suggestion. When you hear somebody doing that, say, "Girl, you go. Yes, you do. You do got it going on, bro. You do got it going on. Keep pushing, bro."
You're not gonna do that.
Sir, I love your enthusiasm.
Why wouldn't I do that?
I wish I had that same enthusiasm.
I give respect to women, so why would I say something like that? Hold on.
Too many people talking. Too many people talking.
Yeah.
Let's hash this out. I'm sensing something. Why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I give people credit, or if they're saying that or whatever their struggle, why wouldn't you? Why do you perceive that I wouldn't give them say you go? Maybe it's the words that they use that I have a disagreement with, but why do you think that I wouldn't?
I did. I said why wouldn't?
No. That was the Willie. That was
why do I say it?
Yeah,
why do I say it?
Yeah.
Because you just told her, why don't she just do it in the mirror instead of saying it out loud?
Okay.
So then why would I expect you to turn around and compliment somebody for saying it? No. You asked me a question. You asked me a question. Let me answer. You asked me a question. You asked me a question. Let me answer. You asked me a question.
I thought you already answered, so I was going to reply back. Go ahead.
You said to her, then why don't you just use a mirror and say it in the mirror? Right. So then you turn around and she said about a person saying it out loud and you giving them a compliment, and you said that you would. You're contradicting yourself. If you believe a person, if you let me talk.
Yeah, you
let me talk.
No, because you're looking at it too literally. But I'll let you talk.
So you're gonna take the whole show over, right?
I'm not taking the whole show over. You're looking at it too literally.
You asked me a question. Now I'm trying to answer you, but you keep cutting me off.
Let him finish his point. Let him finish his
I'm not saying what
point.
you want to hear. Because I'm not saying what you want to hear.
That's what I'm talking about.
You contradicted yourself by saying that she should use a mirror to compliment herself, and then turn around. You said that you would do a compliment to a person if they said it out loud, which is a contradiction because you wouldn't do. I said you wouldn't do it because of what you just told her to do when she meant about being self-confident.
You're always busy trying to scrutinize instead of trying to help encourage people.
You already said it's
it's the word
that I you would not respect every woman.
Okay, hey, move on.
Deserve respect.
No, man, because
every woman does
I
not
love
respect.
how y'all. I should say y'all. Okay. You're taking what I'm saying.
Because he don't want to cut me off. Because
you can be.
Yeah, you say what you got to say, but then when I'm talking, you want to cut me off
because
it's not what you want to hear.
You misread what I'm saying.
Let me talk. Let me talk for a while. Let me talk for a while. You've been talking.
It's more effective. Let Willie talk this. Third time she just said, then we move on.
You've been talking for the last hour and a half. Let me talk for. Let me get like 5 minutes, okay? Let me get 5 minutes. Okay. You've been talking the last hour and a half. Let me get 5.
I have not been talking the last.
Let me get 5. Oh, go! Don't cut me off.
Why you gotta take a shot? Don't take a shot.
Go ahead. Your show. Go ahead.
No, you taking shots. When you explain, you taking little shots at.
It's an hour and a half. I just asked for 5.
No, but why you gotta take little shots? I've not been talking all show.
Hour and a half. Go ahead. Get another half hour.
Okay,
Go ahead. I'll wait.
Fine. Check it out. When I said, and I don't have to do this without taking a little cheap dig at you right there, because when you're trying to explain this, whatever. No, what I was simply saying is this: is that you don't need a crowd to do all the bravado, pat your back on yourself on the back, out saying all the alpha. You can use the mirror, but it's the terms alpha and I'm dominant, I'm this boss person that I think is problematic because.
And why? Why is it problematic?
Same person? Are you going to be that?
Why is it problematic?
Are you going to be that same person when you fall and be like, I messed up that project.
Let me jump in here for a moment. Hold on, Lakia. I'll answer that.
Just say that. He cut me off to say that because
it
made no sense.
Because
you cut me off to say something that made no sense.
Fellas, get some control.
No,
Lakia, I'll answer.
Like anybody on here.
Herb, he might let you get a chance. Go ahead, Herb. Let's see what you got to say, Herb. Let Herb talk. Herb one time for a minute.
Lakia, I'll answer that question in one way.
Okay.
When black women go to work, do they exhibit that same behavior in the workplace?
Of what? Calling them boss bees, or that's what?
When black women go to work, hold on. When black women go to work, do they exhibit that same behavior in the workplace?
They could. They probably some women. Some
no. It's not. It's not if they could. Do they? It's a yes or no question.
Yeah. And listen, I was a supervisor for 14 years, 13 years. I was a supervisor. At an outpatient mental health clinic.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on.
I ran that floor all the time.
Hold on. It doesn't. Hold on. It doesn't require an explanation. Just a yes or no.
No. I can give an explanation. I'm sharing an explanation. You asked a question. I'm going to answer.
Ask people a question and then tell them you can only say yes or no.
And there was some time
because it doesn't require an explanation. I'm not saying she can't answer the question. I'm just saying it doesn't require an explanation.
Yes, it does happen at work.
She's trying to explain her answer.
So the thing is,
the answer doesn't require an explanation. It's called profanity.
Old as hell, and we can't have conversations. This is how our shit is, man.
And so
it's just called profanity. That's all.
The reason why I would say yes, because women talk, we have conversations. We do. We sometimes we hype each other up. And as I was a supervisor for 13 years, there's some people that were very try to intimidate me as a black young woman at the time when I was supervising. I was in my 20s. And the women that I was supervising were 40s, 50s, 60s. They were older than me. So I had to come in with a very, not aggressive demeanor, but I had to come in with a firm demeanor, because if I didn't, they tried me at every hand. So I kept it 100. I kept it. We're good friends. They loved me as a supervisor because the way I supervised them. But yes, I had to come in with a certain demeanor. I was the only black woman as a supervisor at that time, even in that whole department. So yes, you have to be that sometimes. And your demeanor, you have to, because you have to gain that respect. If you don't gain that respect, you're not going to get it. So yes, it is that way sometimes. And I had to say to myself, Lakia, guess what? They have to put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. They have to take a poop just like you do. I have to hype myself up so that I make sure I do what I'm supposed to do as a woman, as a supervisor, so I keep my job to take care of my family. But it was the way that I did it, and I believe I did it with tactfully, and that's why I have the respect that I have today. But I feel like, Sir Tice, I feel like you are taking something that's a narrative that women do use, and men. Now, stop using it. Women and men use these things to hype themselves up. Guess what? Let them be. Let people be. If they want to be that, be that. And guess what? I root you on. I applaud you. Do you, boo? And guess what? I'm gonna do me. Sometimes people are too wrapped up in what other people are doing instead of just also hyping them up too.
Let me hold on. Let me say this. Let me say this to all of that. When you give yourself titles and you say this about it, does it have more value to other people giving you those titles? I know for me, if people acknowledge me as that, I accept that. I'm not gonna poke my chest out and say I'm this or that. It means more when someone else acknowledges me or calls me that or gives me that title. And usually I'm humbled. No, not me, whatever. And they're like, no, that's you, whatever. I'm like, no, not me, because I don't want all that. But when you gotta put yourself out there and say, I'm the boss, I'm this or that,
I agree.
It may come off wrong to the masses of many people. So you have to understand and respect that. And some of that stuff you
let your work do the talking for you.
Yeah, you have to keep it internally. You may think it, but you ain't got to put it out outwardly.
I think that it all got kind of derailed because Annetta said she's an alpha female and people got triggered.
Yeah, we know how it goes.
She was just succinctly trying to describe her personality.
Right.
you know, okay, so she used the term that like I said, triggered people, but the whole conversation got derailed from what she was trying to explain and describe just because she used a label. It's just a freaking label. Even when men use it, it's just a label.
Do men sit around? Man, I'm this alpha dog at this project I was leading. Guys don't talk like
yes, they do.
But
I just told you.
You're telling a man who's not only been a boxer, an individual sport, but also led some high-level projects. Now, do you have some assholes that do that? Yes. Okay, so if we're going to go into the absolute point, absolutely. Now, to your point, yes, we're going to always have little things that'll build us up, that we're going to call ourselves or whatever, big, and that's it. But to say that over people, I don't think the word was triggering Christine per se, as it's
clearly it was.
Here's another no. As it more as here's another term that's often misused. As I said, there really aren't alpha males or females, as that's a lion pride term, and I will stand by that, because to be alpha, number one, you have to be anointed that by other men, and that's within that discipline. You don't call yourself an alpha, number one, but even in that context, okay. The man on the court, whoever used the analogy about the basketball, Draymond Green is the alpha on defense. Steph Curry is the alpha on offense, but they're all one part of a team. And it's not like I'm the biggest lion or anything like that. And I think we love talking about this.
She didn't even get to finish her point.
I didn't.
Because
and
everybody
and we always said it's an alpha female and alpha male. We both have our own roles. David said it too. What part are you not? You don't listen.
Okay,
sir.
as I said, I made it clear. You don't listen. I know that you don't care for me.
Your own agenda.
And that's fine. My problem
I think it's said several times.
I've said plenty of things that rationalize.
You don't listen, though. You don't listen.
So you can. What do you mean I don't listen? I'm the one who recanted back plenty of the things I said. Now listen.
I just shared twice with you.
Make it personal. I don't have any issues with you that you have with me.
People had spoken.
Okay.
Did not hear. I know.
Table.
You don't like
this. Post in the counselor's corner. Post in the counselor's corner about this. It brings up the next talking points. Now we go get into a little Christmas jeer. Lighten up the situation.
I wore my green.
Thank you.
Lighten up the situation. Gifts is the size or the thought that matters. This includes any gifts. And I know, like, how the hell we go to that point? Sometimes you just have to have a little paradise ship or something.
Yes.
You need to go into a different.
I think it's the thought that matters. Because you can buy an expensive gift, you can buy a nice gift, but I think it's more so of what the person gets to, or the use that the person gets out of the gift, that matters the most. Personally, I bought a lot of stuff for Christmas. With my partner, I bought this gallon water bottle. He uses water bottle every day at work. One broke. I bought a lot of stuff. I bought expensive stuff too. And that little $40 water bottle, that took the cake. He left all of his gifts at my house. He took the water bottle though. So
that was one thing. Yeah. It's a
small. He uses it every single day. Every day that he's at work, he's gonna use it. But the clothes and stuff, he don't need it to the weekend, so he ain't worried about it. So it's definitely.
Can I jump in for a second? Can I jump in for a second? Because only reason because of what she just said, I actually just posted the other day. I was actually the one that suggested this subject, but the situation that I'm going to bring up just happened Christmas.
Is this a Willie's moment? Is this a Willie moment?
I guess you can
put the tag up
there. It's just a conversation. Well,
there we go.
Based on what she said when she was, I was talking about need and wants, and I was always saying that I didn't need anything for Christmas, and I was telling my friend that, but then I kept saying I wanted to go to get my foot done. I go to the reflexology every month to get my foot done for my ankle, and he kept asking me what I wanted for Christmas. I kept saying, I don't need anything. I don't need anything. But every now and then I was talking about, I've been wanting to go to get my foot done. And for Christmas, she gave me a gift certificate for reflexology. Just like you gave him that water bottle, all the other things you gave him, that one thing that you paid attention to meant more to him than, I mean, it meant a lot more because it was something he really wanted, something he needed versus what, what he wanted. It was something he really needed, and you paid attention to that. And that's sort of how I looked at the gift that was given to me, is that I kept saying, I don't want anything. I don't really need anything. But then something I wanted to do, which was get my foot done, I just wasn't taking the time to do it. And she heard me say that, even though I wasn't even thinking the fact that I was even speaking that. And that was the one thing she picked up on and gave me a gift certificate for that. And that was really, something to me that stood out, that person paid that much attention to something that I was saying. So, I think
it's all about listening,
sort of
having that listening ear, Sir Tice. It's all
that
about
listening ear,
having that.
And that's how you can tell when a woman is really.
Look here, you trying to instigate. You trying to start up shit.
You heard that?
I just want him to know I have no issues with him.
That's how you can tell when
he was quiet. He wasn't bothering nobody. You had to call him out.
Have fun with each other.
The points I say stay on people's minds that they will remember it 5 minutes later. But that's all right.
I will say this. I'm not.
It's all love.
Sometimes. I'm not a person that really into getting gifts. I like to give gifts because I like to see the enjoyment and the respond on people's face. So when my friend that I've been talking to a couple of years was like, "What do you want me to get you?" I was like, "I really don't need anything. Like I literally have, And so he was like, "What do you want me to get you?" And I was like, "I don't need anything. Like, I don't really need anything." Mm-hmm. But again, listening is the key factor. He listened. Mm-hmm. I got up one day and it was like, "Dad, I don't got anything to make my coffee in because I gave my coffee pot away." So he asked me, "Do you have a Keurig machine?" So it's different things, the way you just communicate in versus what you need and what you want. Because I'm a person, every gift that I got my grandkids, my friends, my friend, or whatever, I made sure that the tree was all about them. And then I turned around and bought myself something I wanted all year. You know what I'm saying? But that's how I am, because I prefer to see the laughter, the joy on their face. If somebody get me something that's, whatever. I mean, my brother got me a scarf and a hat. He thought I was going to be like, oh, that's, because he think I'm a label person. I am. But at the end of the day, I was like, oh, I like this. It's really nice.
I think for me, it doesn't matter if it's big or if it's small. I just appreciate
it. Doesn't matter.
Most of the time, like all my kids, like, "Mom, what you want for Christmas?" I was like, "My 2 front teeth." I don't care. You know what I mean? Because it's not all about, for me, it's not about gifts. It's greater.
Funny story. My daughter lost her 2 front teeth on the 22nd or 23rd. So she had no bottom.
Oh no. The baby, she going through getting her permanent. But that's I don't care about. It's not about gifts for me. For me, it's all about the personal, the peace that I have. I like to keep the friendships that I have. I like to keep them genuine and pure. I like to just keep. I love that my kids are they're doing well. I'm just grateful for that. You know what I mean? Because so much can be going on. Everybody's well. Everybody's good. That's all that matters to me. It's not about gifts for me. Do I like getting them? I do, but it's not a bit. I didn't know what I wanted to tell anybody. I would say if it was a like you said, if it was a coffee maker, I would have said coffee maker. Or if it was I bought myself a teapot. I was excited about my little teapot. I bought myself a ring. I buy myself gifts. I don't care because those are not the big things. It's not about that for me.
For me, it's I do like receiving gifts, but I like to see how well a person knows me, how well they pay attention. So, for example, there was one year on Christmas Day, my brother came over and he hands me my gift and he tells my kids, "Want to see your mama cry?" I open the gift and it is the book, A Purple Crayon. It was my favorite book as a child.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Like 40 years old. And I just busted out crying. He was absolutely correct. But that sentiment, it wasn't an expensive gift, and that goes whether it's a significant other, my kids, or whatever. It's the thought, and especially when they show that they're, like you said, they're paying attention. They've paid attention to things that I've said, or they notice the things that I like. Like, I'm a big coffee addict. I have every freaking type of coffee maker you can imagine because I get it as gifts. But so it's the sentiment involved. It's more so than the how much you spent.
Who is playing this? Who's playing this?
Yeah, somebody got this in the background.
All right, it's off.
So yeah, and I agree with that. I think sometimes as you get older, it's about listening. And those little things, it might not even be that much. It could be $5, $10, whatever, but it's something you mentioned in conversation, and they were listening to you, and they said, well, I remember you saying this, and this is why I got you that. That means a lot for people to pay attention to actually what you're saying, because all of us are distracted by so many things that sometimes we miss the boat on opportunities like this. But I don't try to put too much emphasis on all this Christmas stuff. But, if you're exchanging, if you're going to get somebody something, make it something that they could appreciate and they enjoy and they could get usage out of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It seemed like that it for this conversation. Master Barber, you got something to say about it?
Yeah, I got something to say about it. Nah, I just got enjoyment just out of my kids. You know what I'm saying? I did for my kids and everything. I didn't receive nothing for Christmas, nor did I expect anything. How could you get somebody something that got pretty much everything they want and need already? So, but I just caught enjoyment out of seeing my kids happy, man. Gave all my kids $200 a piece and just leave me alone with it. You know what I mean? So it's Christmas all year round for me anyway. So
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I'm going after those sentiments. I don't celebrate holidays, period, with the exception of possibly Thanksgiving. So for me, I tell people, I said, another year under the belt. That's all I concern myself with. If I happen to get something from somebody saying that. No, it's just a personal thing.
Thing, or that's just a choice.
It's a choice. I have absolutely no reason to celebrate something that's contrived. And before people that are devout Christians or religious get into the aspect of it, I'll just tell you, research the origins of Christmas. I have absolutely no reason to celebrate that. It's just like Fred said, anything that I need, I get myself. Yeah.
I'm just glad to be alive, man. That's it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's it.
Glad to still be
That's
here.
it.
So, your word, life itself is a gift, man. I'm straight, man.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's about the thought. I don't tend to receive or expect to receive certain things, but I do get surprised this year. My little cousin, it's funny, I'm calling him little. Somebody with the background. He was in a bowl game in Orlando, and I flew my uncle and his wife and their daughter. He married a woman with a daughter or whatever. So her daughter, she's my cousin too, but nonetheless, flew them down for the game, and I went up for it, so that they could see him play. And they were very appreciative of it. I knew that they wanted to do that but it's Christmas and all that, So I don't necessarily celebrate, but when I say celebrate, as far as believe the adherence, but I do participate in the festivities because I just like seeing people happy.
Mm-hmm. And for some people, they just join in and they said, I thought the subject was about Black culture. Well, on this platform, we have multiple segments or whatever. That was the start of it. We talked about that for about an hour. So now we've moved on to other phases. But at the end of the day, it still deals with culture and what you believe in or whatever the case is. Like if you don't believe in it, then you don't give a damn what happens for Christmas or whatever the case is. But if you say, you know what, I like to make people feel good or whatever the case is, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to get caught up, get all caught up into all that stuff. But if I can make one person smile and feel good, I'm good with that. And to me, that's great, whatever. So that's where we at with this segment.
Anita, what you get for Christmas?
What did I get?
Oh, you talking about
Anita. Yeah.
What did I get, or what did I give? Well, one thing I gave was I gave my.
Keep it clean.
They know you should be
This ain't about dick germs, okay?
Yeah.
One thing I did, and you guys don't all know my sense of humor, but I gave my sister, she left her projection Roku thing here for like 6 months when she needed to store stuff at my house. So it's been sitting on my fire mantle. So it got wrapped up and I gave it to her. But she didn't think my joke was too funny. She's like, "You fucking asshole." She was literally mad. What I got for Christmas was some slipper socks. That's what I got.
Did you need them?
My sister didn't like my sense of humor. Now my 16-year-old niece, I got her a box of ramen noodles, and she just loved it. She thought it was funny. I mean, I got them some other stuff too, but I'm just saying, like that they should know my sense of humor by now. I'm 45 years old.
Yep.
And
so I thought it was funny.
And I like this comment Anne Maria said. She said, "This show makes me smile, laugh, and shake my head." That's what it's all about, the Counselor's Corner. You're going to have a gamut of emotions, whatever. You're going to smile, you're going to laugh, you're going to be frustrated, or whatever the case is.
Thank you.
Isn't that everyday life? Isn't that
all in one night?
Yeah. Right. And it's everyday life on crack on Monday nights.
For sure.
Oh wow!
We do have one segment that we're gonna get to, and that's can two people with different religious affiliations and values make a relationship work?
No,
because people say about equally yoked and all of that stuff, but it's some people that you like, damn, I really want to be with this person, but I'm not about to go up into that church house on a regular basis, or I'm not going to the mosque, or I'm not going to be fully covered, and all that stuff. So what gives? Because very seldom you meet someone and you say, dang, we on the same thing. We on the same level. We on the same connection, and y'all right off to the sunset. That shit is on Disney Channel.
See, you
can even meet them in the same church.
Yeah.
You can even meet them in the same church and still may not even be on the same page. You know, because they could be in the same church with you, but their religion might be a little more religious than you, or more into the scripture and the word than you. And I mean, so you can be right in the same church with a person and not be evenly yoked, as they call it. But when you're in a separate religion, but when you're in a separate religion, that makes it even harder, because not only do you have to try to but play down your religion, you have to learn their religion also, so you don't disrespect or
offend or
say
anything,
something that's going to be be taken out of context with them. So that takes a lot too, because now you not only have to stick with your religion, but either learn that person's religion or be willing to, one of you, give up your religion to join the other person.
So, but what that means is, I think we're missing the concept of what unequally yoked means. In Corinthians 6:14, it talked about belief. It talked about somebody who did not believe in God, believe in Jesus Christ, or any of that. That's when it's stating somebody unequally yoked. It's not talking about the attendance of church or how much you attend. If you don't attend, that's not what it's speaking of. A lot of people have gotten to this place, and I think I said this a couple weeks ago on, that people have changed their mindset about church. Okay. So a lot of people are spiritually connected. They may not go to church every Sunday. That does not mean that they forsake themselves to assembly with other people. When you talk about somebody unequally yoked, I'm talking about, I'm a minister at church. I'm very active in church. I grew up in church. I'm a PK kid. Me personally, I could not date a man who'd be like, I'm an atheist. I can't date you. You don't have a belief. You don't have, and that's not to say I'm downplaying him.
But that's his belief, though. That is his belief.
That's his belief, but his belief does not measure up to where I'm at.
Right, and that's
it doesn't align with it. Right. So because it doesn't align, we already got.
But I think that was the question.
That
was the question.
That's what she was explaining. Let her finish, please. Thank you.
We've already got our first battle because we are not in the same place that we should be. When you're dating, it's about collecting data, okay? It's about getting with that person, connecting with them, getting more information, find out about them. And religion, spirituality, all of that stuff is a part of getting to know that person. When I start dating somebody, I don't come right out. I'm not no Bible thumper. I come right out and be like, well, do you know Jesus and the pardon of your sins? No. What I say, I mean, it comes up in a general conversation. And normally it comes up because I'm very active. You know what I'm saying? I'm very active in church. And so he'll say, wow, you really active in church. You're a worship leader. You're a minister. You're very active in church. And then the conversation expounds on that level where I start talking about the belief level, start talking about the scripture, start talking about things that are applicable, and that's how the conversation generates. Now, I got some really good friends that are not, they don't believe the same way I do. Does it dismiss me having a relationship with them? They're a friend. They're not in the category of being my man. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because our belief aspects are different, and it would clash.
So Annette, if I say if we're dating and I say I'm God, I'm God,
I'm gonna look at you like you're crazy.
You know, it's like
what's any different now?
Right. I'm gonna say, God, how did it work for you losing that 50 pounds? Was you healing people when you lost it, God?
Yeah, I mean, we all have him inside of us. He does reside
back in the
inside
day.
of us. I'm trying to say it that way.
Religion.
Hold on, everybody talking. Hold on. Who's talking?
Do you guys think it was different by accepting different religions with your mate back in the day? And I'm asking that because my grandma, she will be 108 in 2 months. She's a Jehovah's Witness. My pappy, he passed away a long time ago. And my pappy's Catholic and my grandma's Jehovah's Witness. And they were married till pappy died. And grandma never got remarried or dated or anything.
Did she start off Jehovah's Witness? When they met, was she Jehovah's Witness when they met, or did she become Jehovah's Witness?
I'm not sure.
Because sometimes
let me jump in
to remember. And my mom's the baby of the family at 65.
I think you can.
Let me jump in here behind Anita's answer and say this. It can. The question becomes how well, and that's gonna be predicated on whether or not the two people use their religion inside the home. As long as they keep the religion where the religion needs to be, it can work.
Which is where?
That's a good point, because my father was a Muslim and my mother was a staunch Christian, and my grandmother, whose brother, my great uncle, he had a church, and we all perfectly coexisted. I even used to go to church regularly. Then I would come home and read the Quran and things like that. It kind of confused the hell out of me, to be honest with you, growing up. You know, it wasn't the best. I mean, but they never necessarily forced it on me, except no swine, anything like that, which was perfectly fine with me. But I do think it becomes, when you're starting a relationship, I don't think it's that big of a deal per se, let me say this. You have people where they say they're this, they say they're that. And that's kind of what they practice. I should say what they practice, what they follow. Then you have people who actually practice it and who's adherent to it. That's when it gets a little bit difficult. Okay, so you got the hardcore Judean, I'll say the people of Israel, because that's a trigger word on YouTube. You have the person who practices that religion, and another person who's casual in Islam. You may have some conflicts there, but it just depends. Now, when kids are involved, I do think a choice has to be made, and what's going to be in the household, and what's going to be the word of the law or the letter of the law, if you will. And that's, I think that they can coexist depending on if people get to that far, to the point of marriage. I would like to think that they iron out their differences with their religion.
So you said that your grandfather?
Their differences with their religion. No, my father was a Muslim.
And your mother was
staunch Christian, and my grandmother's brother had a church. Actually,
and how long did they? And they never divorced.
It wasn't necessarily that. Read this. Go do this. Go to Sunday school. Go do these prayers. Like I said, I was confused, but as a kid, you just do what your parents tell you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just more interested in their relationship. Although I get what you're saying.
Their relationship was fucked up
when children is what I'm sorry.
Their relationship got fucked up on a lot of other different.
Okay.
No. But I just think that keep in mind this. You have to factor in the time. I think nowadays we're much more tolerant as a culture of different things than back then. Okay. Now, you do have your people who are zealots or who are, hardcore, like, you can't walk in my house unless, you believe that the Lord is able to die for your sins,
He said, I like your rings. You be watching shit.
Somebody's got the YouTube feed. Got to mute the YouTube feed.
Yeah, so I do think that it's better nowadays. Let me just end on this. I like when people have some kind of a faith behind them. I do, I just like it when they're grounded in something, whether I believe it or not. Now, I mean, there's obviously limits to that, so let's not go extreme, but
right.
That's
my thing is, to be honest, I've dated guys in the church and I've dated guys outside the church. And I thought that, guys that profess salvation to guys who did not. Let's say it that way. Guys that said, I believe in God, but they don't believe in Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. I've dated both. And the reason why I would date it outside, the church was because I said some of the men in the church is no different than the men I've met out in the street. Mm-hmm. And that's just the truth. But I've come to a preference. I do prefer, and for me, it is the foundation, as you said, Sir Tice. I do want someone that has a foundation. I do prefer someone that, if I can't pray, at least I know he praying for me. He has the ability to call on Jesus Christ for me, because that's who I believe in, and I know he's the one that answers my prayers. That's my belief. And I need that. I love to talk about the Bible. I love to have, like my ex-husband, I said he swept me off my feet with the word of God, because he just fed me the word, and I loved it. And I learned so much from him. And that I'm attracted to that. I'm attracted to a man that knows the word of God. I'm attracted to a man that's intellectual. I'm attracted to that. So that's something that I prefer to have. Because and for me as a woman, I have to be steadfast in what I believe. When I start deterring off of that, then that's when I find I lose myself. But if I have a man that's believing the same way that I'm believing, I believe that man will help me, as well as myself, needing to stay focused, but help me stay on the path of where we should be as a woman, as a couple. We're gonna do what's right in our God. So that's what my preference is, to be with a man that believes in Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior and have that foundation.
Shaughnessy. What's your take on this,
Shaughnessy?
I like to stay within my religion. I once dated a guy that was Muslim, and Jesus Christ, it wasn't the best. So I will stick to what I believe in, and that's it. But for the most part, if you are not grounded in church, I really don't tend to like or date those kind of men, only because we're just not gonna mesh. I'm not saying you have to go to church every Sunday. I'm not saying that. I'm gonna need you to know some Bible verses. I'm gonna need you. If my son can quote Bible verses, I'm gonna need you to know some Bible verses. I don't know. I can't deal with somebody that again is not grounded in Christianity. My father was Catholic.
I was gonna say, let me ask you this. I was going to say, let me ask you this question. So, do you need the individual to be able to quote the Bible verses, or to actually understand how to use those Bible verses that he's going to quote?
Both. And when I say verses, yeah, that too. My reasoning in saying that is, of course, we are all imperfect humans. I would be a hypocrite and a liar to say that, oh, I need my man to walk by or live exactly by the Bible verses, because I don't. I'll be completely honest. I don't. I have been brought up in the church. I've had my first Holy Communion. I had confirmation, but every day I went to Baptist church with my mother. One of those things, a little confused, but Catholic, Baptist, it's very different. But again, it's not too far off. So if I can't on a Sunday morning or in a long car ride and we're taking a road trip, if the Rebirth of Kirk Franklin can't come on and you being annoyed and you don't want to listen to it, then you're not for me. I'm sorry, we can't. If Hezekiah Walker and the Love Fellowship choir come on and you don't want to hear it, you're not for me. I just, you're not. And
so is he,
are we
is he for the street?
No.
We get some scratching and mixing in between there.
Yes, that's my point. So is Jaheim gonna come on?
Okay.
Yo Gotti may come on. NBA Youngboy may come on. All of that may come on. But if we switch to gospel music and you're like, oh, I don't want to hear that, and I can't. Goodbye.
Right. That's so true. But let me share this. The one guy said in the comments about women, Black women, reducing our already limited, options. But why is this narrative that being single is a bad thing? It's not. And that is such a false narrative. And biblically, okay, I'm enjoying my singleness. Biblically, it's actually God prefers. He's a gift from God to be single. And for those that do believe in the Bible, it's a gift. And they said it's many scriptures that even support that. Not that he's against marriages, but it's a gift to be single, because he said, as a single woman, I have him as my husband. Man, you don't even know the blessings that I get because he's my husband right now. I ain't complaining. I'm okay about being single. I'd rather be single as him as my husband. I'm saying that spiritually because he takes care of me financially, health-wise, provider, protector, all of that, where the men that I've been meeting haven't been able to hold up to that. So I'd rather stay where I'm in this safe space until he send me someone that I know for sure gonna be that same example.
What
does
mean?
Hold on, give me one moment, so Tice. I gotta ask a question since you said that. If you didn't have children, would you feel the same way?
If I didn't have children,
about what?
About not needing a man, or waiting for.
She didn't say she don't need a man. She didn't say
that's why I corrected. That's why I corrected myself. That's why I corrected myself.
I'm in a good space right now. I'm in a healthy space right now.
Yeah, she didn't say it has
Hold on. That's why I asked the question. I said, if she didn't have children, would she feel the same way?
Yeah, because it has nothing to do with her children.
It has nothing to do with the children. She's talking about
at all.
Thing. She's talking about.
I'm asking if she didn't have children. I'm not saying it has anything to do with children.
You can't equate children to singleness. You can't equate children to singleness. That's like you equating motherhood to somebody who's not a mother.
God damn, boy.
I think what Herb is asking, like, would her overall mindset be different?
Thank you.
Okay, so let me say this. But what's the overall difference? If
but this is what I'm saying.
What she's saying has nothing to do with
yes,
her
I'm
children.
serious, Jay. I'm gonna show you the Bible scriptures that support being single is a blessing through the word of God. Yeah. And I believe the word
that has nothing to do with your children.
Jesus is shining on it.
But let me say this. What I'm gonna say is that, okay, my kids are with me. I've had moments where my kids weren't around. My kids are getting older now. And I'm looking forward to those days when the kids are gone. I'm an introvert. I'm an only child. I was used to being by myself. I was the only child for a long time. So being by myself with no kids, yes, I would be just fine. I don't even really want a dog, nor a cat or a parakeet, or whatever animal that's out. I don't want it, because guess what? When I'm eventually, by God's grace, have grandchildren, but I'm okay by myself. Absolutely.
What does being sent a man mean?
A what?
What again?
You said until God sends me a man or something along those lines.
Until he sends.
Why ask the question?
There's nothing by
God's
coincidence.
timing.
There's absolutely nothing by coincidence. Everything is with purpose. So when it's time, and he says it's time for me to meet the one he has for me, maybe I might not meet someone at all. I might not never meet somebody, but I'm okay with that. The only thing to me is I was reading in this thing as well. Society wants to make it seem like it's a negative thing even to be celibate. Society wants to make it seem like everything. No, there's a place for everything.
Yeah,
there's people that's going to be married, and there's people that's going to be single. He said it's a time for peace. There's a time for war. There's a time for there's a time for everything. Everything is not going to be absolute. So there's good to be multiplied and be fruitful and multiply, and there's also good to be single. They're called Enochs. So that's what I'm saying. Like, why everybody has to be put in this one bubble of?
I'm not saying that at all.
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you, sweetie. I'm saying the people in the comments. I'm also referencing them. I'm referring to their comments.
Justifying not being.
That's what I'm saying. Ain't nobody justifying nothing. Everything doesn't have to be everybody doesn't have to be married, and everybody doesn't have to be single. What I'm saying is that it's not a bad thing. So stop putting a negative connotation or narrative to something that is healthy. Guess what? I have 6 kids. I did my job. I was fruitful and I multiplied, sweetheart. Guess what? Now I'm chilling.
Well, I don't think that.
Okay, so to this guy's comment, she's trying to justify not being covered by a man. Let me say this to him. Typically, when people say that, it's because there is always some behind the scene hurt, disappointment, discouragement. We all got to be totally honest and transparent on here that we have experienced some doubts in the relationship that affected us, that triggered us, and we're in the healing process of getting into other relationships. So when he say that she justifying not having a cover for man, that's not what she said. What she stated was that she's confident and she's secure in who she is now, in her development of who she is now.
In her having a man doesn't define how good or not good of a woman she is. She is perfectly fine being single. That's fine.
That's the only one I need.
Exactly. So it doesn't mean in any relationship, if you dating a man just to give justification of who you are, if you're dating a woman to give justification of who you are, you need to go sit on somebody's leather sofa because it's a deeper rooted issue. You got a problem. I'm going to tell you now, I can't solidify a man's void that he has. That void that you have has something to do with either your childhood, past relationships, whatever it is. I cannot fulfill it. Nor am I even trying to attempt to pay for another woman's crime. I ain't doing it. I ain't do the crime, and I'm definitely not going to do it.
And I can date. I can date right now. I have men that do pursue me. I'm not a ugly woman, and I'm not a
exactly like you can
I'm not an unattractive woman, sweetheart. I have men that do want to go further with me. I just choose as I've gotten older. Yeah, sometimes I am slow with some things, and it took me some time to understand some things about myself. And now that I've learned these things about myself, I'm chill.
I think this is going a little bit off. The only reason, since it was my question that sparked that, I was only simply asking that because you have a lot of women who are inactive, who go to work, go home, and then say the very same thing about being sent a man. And I'm like, what are they talking about? You have to be out there active, doing things to encounter those so-called coincidences.
That sounds like believing in a mystery God or something like
not necessarily true.
And I'm not, when you say not necessarily true, obviously there are exceptions to this. Like you're going to the hospital to see someone and you encounter someone. Okay, so I'm not.
Go to a picnic.
But I'm saying in
general, you can walk out to your car and somebody visiting their cousin from across the street.
Okay.
Which means that you're out.
Yeah, those are rare circumstances.
I'm glad you said that because that's that hope. One second. That's that hope that I'm talking about. That people.
But you don't have to have hope. You can be perfectly fine, not worried about or looking for anyone.
Hold a second, because it was something you said.
What do you mean by being out?
When I say being out, being active, doing things. I thought I already just
like what?
But
like he's saying, most women come home from go to work, come home, take care of the kids, you in the house. How are you gonna find a man? What, he gonna walk into your front door? That's what he's saying.
Exactly.
You can find a man going shopping, going to the post office,
and Walmart.
All right.
No, but I do want to say this. She said something about, okay, I can't stand gospel music. I'm not saying we're going to be a couple or anything, but that would be like me. And again, we don't have to have the same rules or anything like that or what have you. But like, I like all forms of music. That would be like saying, well, if she don't like no music, I can't deal with her. And I think that that's just way too restrictive. Maybe that person wasn't exposed to gospel music, for example, and would like to learn, and there's an opportunity that they can learn.
Which means you aren't grounded in the church, which means you aren't for me. So if your grandma and your mama ain't play gospel music on a Sunday morning, 9 times out of 10,
what if they came from a different culture and you guys agree
and that's
with
absolutely
else?
Fine. I've done that at least once. I've dated a Muslim man, and it was not for me.
Okay, but you can't use. Oh, okay. You fine. What I'm saying is, there's a lot of people close off a lot of options. Okay, to this, and this doesn't mean going outside your preferences. I tend to like people who've had different upbringings than mine. In fact, I don't need a carbon copy. Damn, I hate myself saying that. I need a carbon copy of myself from my childhood. You know. I want someone where I could learn and we could bounce different things, because I think that expands more neurons in your brain and you learn different things. And
just because you're exposed to the same kind of Christian music I am doesn't mean that you had the same upbringing as I've had. So with that being said, again, just like I said, I cannot. If you don't like some of the things that I like, and if we can't do the same things at the same time, it's not going to work. Apple Music Shuffle is going to shuffle all of my music. So you might hear Hilary Duff, you might hear some Billie Eilish, because I have kids. You might hear NBA Youngster, you might hear Harry Styles. You might hear all of those things. But what works is that, again, my partner, he's a 12-year-old daughter, so he has a 14-year-old son, he has a 15-year-old son. So our playlists are similar. He also has a mother. He also has a grandmother that is strong and deep in the church. So we can agree on some of those things. I'm not saying that's the end all be all, saying that because our Apple Music playlist is the same that we're going to get along. But there's some things that let me know ahead of time we're not really going to match. And if you're not built or grounded in the Christian faith, I'm really not even going to be on a road trip with you, to be honest.
That's
right. And then again, you got, like she said, you got to understand, we all are not alike. We have to have some sense of diversity. Okay. Like I told y'all, Willie knows I'm an international gospel singer and jazz singer. Now I love Tupac. I love Big Papa. I love you know, Layla Hathaway. Marvin Gaye is my husband. So it's all types of music, and I love gospel. Okay, Mahalia Jackson. I love gospel. You have to be well-rounded in order to study your craft and master your craft.
I don't disagree with that one bit. But
you know
but limit that. No, I said I don't disagree with that one bit. But I'm saying it'll be no different than if you talk about fashion or interests. Okay, case in point, I love a variety of sports. Someone who doesn't love sport, I went out with for years, you know, and even though I tried to bring them into it and understand it, they didn't quite get it, but I didn't hold it as a hindrance because oftentimes people say, well, that's sports, that's different than your faith. I say, I beg to differ, you know. It's been a lot of things that I've built up from these various sports. I don't mean watching, I mean actually participating in them, coaching, things like that, you know, but I wouldn't restrict just of an interest. That's all I'm saying. You know, some people will. So that's all.
I hear what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Well, here's a question for the panel at large then. And this is just from what I'm hearing and listening to. Do women place more of an emphasis on religion than men?
It just depends on the
I believe so.
What was the question? I missed the question.
Yeah, it really depends.
What was the question, Herb? I missed the question.
Just listening to the panel and what everybody's saying, and it seems, that's what I'm asking, does it seem that women place more of an emphasis on religion than men?
I wouldn't say so. In my experience, I wouldn't say so. And I don't know if that's just what I've experienced, but I don't think so. That comes to who you're going to actually mesh with.
Yeah.
Because somebody can be overbearing when it comes to religion. I can appreciate Christianity and know my Bible verses, and I can meet a man that says, okay, then we went out to the bar on Sunday night, we got in the house at 3 a.m. and we're gonna be at the 9 o'clock service, and I'm be like, no, that's not gonna work for me necessarily. But I don't think that's a man or woman, that's either person, that's a person thing.
My opinion, and be honest with you guys, is that I think women are more do think more about that than men, because the majority of the men that I meet, they don't want to talk about, they barely want to go to church, but they definitely don't mind being with a church girl.
That's because they have this warped thought process about church girls. I just had this conversation with a couple men at the cigar spot, and they said, I love a church girl because they the freakiest. And I was like, what? But
well, they wasn't always saved. They may have had some experiences in life.
So with the religion thing, so with the religion thing with women, is it more of a hope and a dream or a fairy tale thing that men don't subscribe to, and they don't get caught up into that, where women are hoping that.
Well, you gotta think about it. I think all of us that go to church or grew up in church, what is predominant in the church? It's women.
Female.
Women.
Now.
Women. Right.
Okay.
I didn't grow up around that.
I think that question alone was saying.
How did it get to that point, though?
I did not grow up around that.
The reason it got to that point.
It's always been that way.
Well, right. Well,
no, it hasn't.
No,
that is not true. That is an inaccurate statement.
The men
the thing is nowadays.
I'll say Baptist church, then I'll put it that way.
I'll say this: the church.
What are you saying about Baptist church?
I didn't say anything about
the majority have always been women.
Well, I'll say this: we were more of a church as far as being Black people. We were more of a church-going people 30 plus years ago than we are now. Now, there's a lot of reasons why. What the hell was that? Anyways,
you get too distracted too easily.
No, but it's right in my ear. I have these speakers. So, what has become the church right now, and what's accepted? Case in point, I know plenty of very religious men who look down on the church and go to these little small things, enclaves, where they all read the Bible themselves. They're not tolerant of this of the choir director or all the nonsense that they see goes on that's accepted, but these people calling themselves holy and all this and not even living close to the word. So, and this is not to pit it on all on one sex, because you have a lot of men in there who are participating in all that garbage. And guys tend to be,
What's the garbage? What's the garbage? Clarify.
What I just described. Gay choir directors, yes, I said it. Gay choir directors, the deacons, the pastors smashing all the women there. This is in every single church, but we see this all the time. And this is
that's happening at City Hall. That's happening in your office.
There's nothing wrong with being gay, but I'll be damned if you're reading that book that is going to say, hey, this is a very tolerant lifestyle. But for people to see that going in there, now me, I'm like, I'm more into the book anyway. I don't have to be in this building. In fact, I learned how to play the keyboards in the church, but like I said, I was never really a fan of gospel music.
What's your name again? Because I don't want.
Sir Tice.
I want to address you appropriately. When you start talking about the gay men, the smashing people, and this, and that's happening at City Hall. That's happening at your
I don't
job.
disagree.
That's happening.
It's happening at school.
What happened?
I don't disagree. What we're talking about an institution.
Honestly, that does not happen at school.
Let me say this. What we have to understand is what we have to
I'm a messenger, Facebook Messenger.
We are the
I'm
church.
just messing with you. You
I'm a
already know I
Facebook
know.
Messenger. You
know I know.
and that's where we get confused. We are the church. The building is where we go and worship. So when you start talking about the church, you talking about us as an individual. You smashing people. You got it. I'm a person just like this is me, and I'm gonna say what I have to say. And I hope and pray that you will listen and not interrupt me, so I can be able to say this. What I'm stating is that we are the church. We come in. The church is like a hospital. We all come in there with different ailments, different issues, different problems. We come in there. You got some that's whoremongers. You got some that's liars. You got some that's cheaters. You got some that's backbiters. You got some. Everybody come in there with a different ailment, okay? And I get frustrated when people try to label the church. No, label the person. Label the individual. Say, okay, because we immediately say, oh, the choir director is gay. Hey, your boss is gay.
Right.
I had a boss that was married to another man, but I didn't look at him like, oh, you can't be my boss. You can't be directed over me. I can't listen to your direction because you married to another man. No, I had to understand that's his choice. That's him as an individual. And I think that's where we get lost. We get caught up on the individual of a person, and we want to look at that.
Okay, thank you for saying that just briefly. Shout out to my man, Dr. Anwar. He said that's not the point. That's a deflection. We don't go to City Hall. We don't go to work.
It ain't a deflection. It's a deflection for you to say.
No, 1 second. We don't go to work to worship. We don't go to the City Hall to get the word, okay? Now, am I naive enough to say that all shouldn't be in there? Of course not. You're talking this to me like I'm probably older than you. I don't say that to son you or anything like that. I say that because I probably have seen many iterations of this across the globe.
Or you probably the same age as my 33-year-old son.
Okay, I wish I was 33 on the age level, but I'm much older than 33. The point I'm getting at is everything you said, I'm aware. Now, I understand y'all say I was triggered by one word. I'm sorry that you were triggered by what I said about what happens in many churches. And many people who go to these places don't want to be a part of that, so they choose to not go. It doesn't make them not religious. They don't like case in point, the church isn't a damn ritual in a sense. Now, for many people it is, but all these ritualistic things that go in there, you can argue, well, I don't even want to get into that or whatever. A lot of what we're worshiping is, dare I say, from the Babylonian mystery school system. Look that up if we really want to delve deeper, but you can't judge a person who doesn't want to go to church. I think now it's more of a sanctuary for women than men, because men can't be themselves.
But you don't think your comments that you're making are not judgmental?
Listen, I'm glad you used that exact same J word. We all judge at all points in time. The only difference is some people say it and some people keep it to themselves. Absolutely, it's judgmental. But I've been involved in the church my whole life. I've seen it in different countries. I've seen some of the same things. I've seen some good things. I'm not saying all churches. I'm not blanking them all with this condemnation, but I'm saying this is one reason what got us on this topic. This is one reason why many men don't go to jail, or I'm sorry, jail. Why many men don't go to church.
Church is jail.
Well, you don't have to approve somebody else's decision to go to church. You don't have to approve. Hold on, let me talk. You don't have to approve of whores being in church. We are all born sinners, and the sinners need to be in church.
And no sin is bigger than another sin.
Okay, yeah. I've never bought into that. And I don't believe it. There's a big difference between molestation and stealing. Sorry.
And guess what? We're going to go to the same hell. The liar and the molester is going to go to the same hell. I agree with you. I agree with you on the molestation. But at the end of the day, God is going to forgive both of those people the same way.
Understood. The reason why most men don't go to church like this is most men don't like to be involved in environments that's like that. So,
but what most men? Because
we were talking about why men go to church less. We're talking about why men go to church less. I'm just saying women tend to be more tolerant of that.
So is this new? Is this old? Is this like
women are more tolerant of what?
I'll say this. It's been going on since prosperity gospel came in. You know, probably in the late 80s and 90s when things started switching to prosperity gospel, because there was a time when a woman, if she wasn't married, couldn't dare come into the church if she was pregnant. Okay, let's not act like we don't know this and we're just blushing over this. And then as that became more acceptable, they were let in. Now, I'm not saying that you should throw them all to the streets either. I'm just telling you how hardcore the rules were at one time in church and how things have changed.
That's the reason why people were running away from church. So you're actually contradicting yourself when you say that. I don't think that men are necessarily running away from. I don't know. I grew up when I was growing up. I know that my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, my grandfather, my uncles, my father, they all held positions in the church. They all do, and they all still do. And that's with my grandmother passed away 2 years ago. My grandfather is still at church every Sunday. My grandfather, my great-grandfather were all deacons. Like they don't. Honestly, I feel like my grandmother missed church more than the men.
Yeah, but you're talking their generation. That's, I mean, there's various reasons. You should see some of the comments here. All I'm saying is that, hell, the church used to be the epicenter of the community. What happened to that? Now the church is ingrained head first into politics that goes against a lot of their beliefs, which is just crazy. When I say the church, it's a euphemism for describing the churches. It's not every single church, but guys, stop tripping off of that. But I'm just giving a general reason. Now, I prefer more the mosque.
If I can interject a little bit, I do agree. My observation is this: I grew up in church. I'm a pew baby. I grew up in church. My grandma took me to church, and this one church was every day except for maybe Saturday. The only day we had to ourselves was Saturday. And I found from my generation is that we saw so much hypocrisy. We didn't want to deal with it no more. We had to be all crispy, clean, and polished when we got into that church. But I promise you, before we got there, it's all kind of hell and how water was taking place. In the home. The home was very abusive. It was very, and they were very judgmental. Like you said, no, you couldn't come up in church half naked. You make sure you got that little shawl, little piece put on your legs or over you. No, you couldn't wear red nail polish, red dresses. You was a Jezebel. It was a lot of things. You couldn't wear pants. You couldn't wear makeup to some degree. In some churches, you couldn't wear earrings. All of that was a sin. And so, and then we're like at home, but at home we're looking, but the home inside is horrible. There's no love. There's no peace. And even then, church was a refuge. So church ain't just a refuge now. It was a refuge then for some folk because the home was horrible.
Well,
and so for me, when the Father himself, and I have to say that's my testimony, himself came and got me as a pregnant with my second child. He came and got me. He said, it's time to go home. And I heard him with my audio voice, and I said, and I spoke back to him. I said, it's time to go home. He said, it's time to go home. I was living in Cleveland, Ohio at the time. And I had a peace about it. And I knew it was him because I said I would never move back to Niagara Falls. And I moved back to Niagara Falls. So long story short, I said, Lord, because I always said, Lord, if you're going to save me, I want you to save me for real. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to I want to do this thing for real. So I came back to the church and it was still the same. It was no different, but I had to break free from that mindset of tradition that they was trying to keep us in. And I had to learn him for myself. And that's what it was. I think people were living off of what the pastor was saying, right, and what sister so-and-so was doing, and what brother so-and-so was saying. No, I had to get to know him for myself. And when I got to know him for myself, I said, he's a loving God. He's not a condemning God. He's a loving God. He's not a judgmental God. There is things that he desires from us to be, but we learn that as we learn of him. And so I do believe that there is a generation of folk that say, I'm just done with the hypocrisy. And we just don't, and we need, but the thing I would just encourage anybody, just have that conversation with him and get to know him for yourself. I was exposed to Muslim. My uncle was Muslim. My grandfather was Jehovah's Witness. My mother was a practicing Jehovah's Witness. My grandmother was a Christian. I had all kinds of different religions around me, but by his grace, he came and called me himself. So when he came and got me himself, it wasn't a pastor, it was a mama, it was a grandma, nobody for me to, for my testimony to say, okay, he real, because he came and got out of my mess himself. So I get it. It was a lot of hypocrisy, but I choose to do better, and I choose to do what he calls me to do, and that's all I can do. And I think people appreciate me as an individual because I don't judge them. They can be themselves around me because I don't judge them. I don't try to put them in a place where, you don't love God because you don't. No, we all just trying to make it. You have your own personal relationship. I have mine. I pray we all make it in. That's how I just view life. And that's just, my take on it. My little 2 cents.
All right. Enough of that. I mean, again, we're never, and that's the point of the whole thing. That you're gonna have open dialogue. You're gonna have different views. Mm-hmm. So people in the comments, they make their comments. Oh, this show, this or that. You already know what it is when you get a group of people together. There's going to be differences.
You got 10 different opinions on the show right now.
So accept that, whatever. And the only way we can grow is if you resonate with certain people said. So a lot of times you sitting there and you just listening to what people say.
That's right.
Something may connect to you, whatever. So it's nothing to shun on somebody to say, this platform, and can we stay on topic, such and such. We already know that once a certain trigger point hit, you're going to go off topic. None of this stuff is scripted, whatever. So you're going to be all over the place with these conversations. But that's life. That's life. If you're looking for a platform that everything falls in sync, I don't know where you're going to find it. You may find it somewhere over here on social media, but as you tune into it, you say, that's some bullshit, whatever.
Well, when you have a panel full of people, you're not going to have that. If you on something by yourself and you're the only one talking most of the time, you're going to get one, that's all you're going to hear is what, and it's going to be whatever that person lays it out to be. But you allow this panel to be an open discussion. And we all have difference of opinions, different backgrounds, women, men. You're going to have differences. So, and that's okay. That's what makes the world go round.
Exactly. So with that said, we're about to be done. We're about to have some closing talking points. And all that was said it shouldn't be no issues to come up with the next topics for next week because there's so much stuff that's been said that should trigger you.
That's right.
That you could post in the counselor's corner and say, hey, I'm about to delve into this point with such and such said. It's never ending. So we're going to close it out with talking points. Who's first?
What are we doing? Closing out?
Yeah.
Pizza.
Oh, we making pizza. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Herb.
I'm hungry.
I can go first.
Herb just ordered a pizza.
All by yourself.
Herb just
He
ordered
making
a
one. He making one.
You put one in the oven.
If we are looking to change,
What?
go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, you better not eat that pizza with all that Krispy Kreme white you got on tonight.
If we are looking to change the future of our culture, then we must address the present because the ship that we on, the rudder is taking us in a bad direction. And as I like to say, growth and understanding occurs in the gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
Good night. All right.
Herb, do you have some Frankie's Donuts over there?
Yes, I have 2 left.
I'm hungry.
Pull up, Anita.
You better get here quickly.
Aneta.
I enjoyed talking to you guys. You gave me I enjoy talking to you guys. The biggest thing I would leave is understanding that we are a diverse group of people. We're different in thoughts, views, opinions, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is respecting where a person is. And I just want to share this little nugget. This form, we have to first, to have this and have so many people on to listen to us, we got to be able to listen and speak and listen, because it sounds like a whole lot of muffled. And because we have 10 very educated people on this group, let people be able to get your educated opinion and your educated statement. So we got to be able to let the other person speak so we can hear it.
I agree.
Oh, that's so nice.
Willie, you start off instigating and you end up instigating.
Nakia?
I was just trying to debate. But you know, we've talked about this alpha thing, and we talked about being leaders. But one thing I'm grateful, this one thing that just is always blesses me, that the greatest among you shall be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. So I do believe that you should have you should keep a level of humility. I do agree with that. I do agree that you should have a level of humility. But it also says, cast not your confidence, for his great recompense and reward. So you have to have balance. So I would always encourage, we should always be able to be the leaders that he's created us to be in our own right, whatever it may be, but also be a servant and humble yourself and be able and be ready to serve, because that is the greatest among you. And I believe that is what makes a person a leader, when they can also serve.
Okay.
All right. For me, I actually got a couple things. But for me, I want to say, I always say, treat people the way you want to be treated. And when you do that, you're gonna find the person that you're compatible with, because you're not gonna allow somebody to do anything to you that you wouldn't allow them, that you wouldn't do to them. And you're not gonna accept anything less than that. Then for my boy, Sortiz, I was listening to you talk about you didn't get anything for Christmas, so I got a lump of coal for you. I'm gonna drop it off. And in closing, I gotta come up with a new one for 20.
You got
to come up with a new one for 2021, but for 2022. But for 2021, in closing, headshots can be deceiving. Be careful out there.
Oh man.
Well, I'll go next. I'll see your lump of coal and raise it to, I'm going to use it for barbecue or whatever. So we're going to use this, we're going to make lemons with lemonade, I buy every kitchen gadget there is. I don't need more toys or anything like that. Hell, I'd be happy with just a round of drinks. Point about culture, I missed some of the part because it was a football game. It was Miami, which is down here, playing and whatever. So I was watching this, but someone had asked me a question in the chat when I referenced about how some friends became drug dealers. He's like, how come you didn't become a drug dealer? And where that ties in the culture is because I looked down at drug dealing. I thought that was some very low-level nonsense. I didn't care how much money those guys had. They had to do it this way. I want to make my money in a different way, and I felt that was taking the easy way out. I felt that way when I was 12 years old, and and I saw it within people in my own family that were doing it. So that's why I didn't choose to do that. But how that ties into culture is how many people have bought into this notion that this is what you got to do. Nowadays, this isn't the 80s or the 70s or 80s. Nowadays, many people are getting involved in that. They're doing it because of the choice that they're making. And lots of times, at one time, we used to have a standard. The choices, we went into the criminal world, we recognized there would be consequences, that you would go to jail potentially at the end. So either you're going to do it on a short run, I'm not encouraging this by any means, or you would die doing it. And people knew that coming in. Whereas now, many people led by culture. This is not Black culture. This is not white culture, Hispanic or anything. Just this instantaneous gratification culture. People running scams now just so they can look good on the gram for a bunch of faceless people that they'll never encounter, which is complete nonsense. Which is kind of what ties into why I spoke about why does it matter what those people think of you? As soon as you turn off these devices, they're not going to think of you anything. If anything, you're going to create more resentment by calling these labels. Let the work, I've moved on now. We're talking about how some of us call us these grandiose labels, and that's not a shot at anyone, but a lot of people do it. We don't need that. We don't need artificial things to blow us up. We can look at our accomplishments and feel good about ourselves, and that's why I meant when I say look in the mirror, it doesn't always mean literally look in the mirror. We can look at, okay, damn, here's my track record. Here's what I did. Okay, got it. And half the time we get off of our square is because we don't recognize what we've done, and that's where the humility tends to come in. It's like, okay, I got this. I've been through this before. I've been through this set of adversities. The adversities that we once been through as a culture before were much more harsher than they are right now. And that's why I hate how a lot of aspects that it's eroded and make people making these simple choices or blaming that they didn't have any money. Yes, but you have a supercomputer inside your pocket right now, which everyone has access to, but you choose to use it for dumb nonsense versus what you could use it for that could change your condition. So that's just my take. Y'all have a good week. I think, next week it'll be New Year's. So have a good, safe New Year and all this. And I'll be back in y'all hell as usual.
Thanks, brother. All right. Who we have left?
I'll go.
Christine, go ahead.
Chris, Anita, and Sean.
My closing remarks is just about standards, because I think you can boil almost every topic that we've had tonight down to standards. If you set standards for yourself, then you won't find yourself gravitating toward the low end of things that are attributed to us as our culture. You'll gravitate toward those things that are on the higher end of what's attributed to our culture. Same with dating or mating. If you shouldn't lower your standards. And if your standard is, I need a person that is religious on this level, or is a believer on this level, or believes in this or believes in that, you shouldn't lower those standards. That's how you find someone that is equally yoked with you. So just all in all, keep your standards. Have a good week.
Thank you. Next.
I'll go. I got a few things since I wasn't on half the show, but in my opinion, I think that when women say we don't need a man, I think it really means that we don't need them to support us financially. I don't need a man. I appreciate a good man, not a toxic man. Even when I'm single, I appreciate a good man as a friend, but I don't need a man to support me financially. I think that's what most women mean when we say we don't need a man. There's nothing wrong with men being chivalrous. I think every man should be a gentleman and learn how to be a gentleman if they don't know by now. And there's nothing wrong with pumping a woman's gas. It doesn't make you less of a man, Herbert.
As long as she paying.
I ain't pumping.
And I think that's all I have time for, but I will see you guys next week. So everybody have a safe and happy new year. And I'm going to continue to watch the 437 Hallmark Christmas shows.
All right.
With the same 7 actors.
All right.
Oh, no.
Shaughnessy.
First thing first, I will say chivalry is not dead. We just have to teach people how to treat us. Once we teach people how to treat us, they will do what is required or learn. Just because a man doesn't grow up in the household with the father doesn't mean that if you grew up in a household with the father, grandfather, or uncle, or those who showed you to walk on the inside and a man should open your door, you can tell them that. And a good man or somebody that wants to be a good man will learn these things from you and have no problem learning those things from you. Another thing, community, village, and unity. I think that will get us right back to where we belong as a people once we start creating those values again and bringing those things back to the forefront where we have the right or the ability to say, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that. Where's your mother? Does your father know you're out here? Does your aunt know you're doing this, et cetera, et cetera? Once we get back to doing those things and practicing those values and taking responsibility for the younger generation, whether they're our children or not, we'll be in a better place. The other biggest thing that I see in this group, both men and female alike, toxic masculinity is a thing and toxic feminism is a thing. We all just have to respect each other enough to know when to be humble, when to take the back seat, when to put that ego aside so we can create a balance. We can all get ahead.
Thank you. And I close it out like all of you have some excellent points, and it's all true. Whatever, like when you think about it, that we definitely got to have balance, but also we have to look at when we think about titles and different things like that. Know who you are, know what you're comfortable with, and know that no one or other beliefs dictate your beliefs. If you believe in something sternly and you stand by it and you're consistent with it, live with it. And you deal with the consequences later. And I think that's a big thing in the community piece. Yeah, we definitely got to work that out in our communities. And we talked about the transient populations, stuff like that. But it's kind of hard to get a grasp on. Somebody has to be the leader. You have to have some activities, little block parties, cookouts, or do something that you have to come together so you can start recognizing, because, hey, I'm guilty of this. I don't know. I know about 3 people in my neighborhood, their names or whoever, and they're the ones that live right close to me. And it's so much tension between us that how can we expect to build and grow when we in a little certain area or cul-de-sac or whatever, wherever you live at, and you don't know each other and you're not growing and building. So we have to think about all that stuff. That filters into the schools, the churches, the workplace, and all that stuff. So here we have it. Happy New Year's to everybody. It's the last broadcast for 2021 and the Counselor's Corner, looking for bigger and better things in 2022. Let's keep up the work and let's keep building and having conversations.
Great show.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas is over,
Happy New Year.
Over with, man. We passed that shit. We passed that. All right, y'all. Appreciate you. Love you all.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Going in the
oven. Have some good subjects ready when we come back.
Going in the oven to fix your slides. Turkey pepperoni.
I still got leftovers. Thanks anyway.
All right, y'all. Talk to y'all.
Behave yourselves until we see y'all again.
All right, be good and be safe, everybody.
Let's go.
See you next year. Promises. See you guys. See you, Nita.
All right,
see you guys. See you, Christine. See you, Dave and her.
See you.